Friday between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and I am so happy to be here this morning after celebrating 21 years in broadcasting over the weekend. Had the opportunity to have a party for the 21-year anniversary at the Wildcat Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. I want to thank Danny Tome. I want to thank Danny. I want to thank Andrea, the entire staff, for all they did at the Wildcat to make it truly special. And I cannot thank everyone enough that came out to it. I'm going to do my best here really quick to say my many thanks. I know some people couldn't make it because of work and whatnot, and some people were sick, but I want to thank my parents, my Aunt Elaine, James, Tracy, Miguel, Nico, my Aunt Donna, Julio Claps, as well as Amy and Amy, Emily, Jerry and his wife Amanda. I want to thank Amani, Dave and Boo, Becky, Lisa, Roseanne, Alana, and Mark, Mr. D, my Feeney, and his wife Suzanne. Of course, I said Danny, Tome. I want to thank Danny again. I want to thank Jay and Kate, Joyce, Curtis, Rob, Bill and Jeff, as well as Mr. Shanley there, Joe, Casey, Jim, Catherine, Isaac, Brendan, of course, who you're going to hear from in a second, Eric, Bill, Jimmer, and Betty, and the wonderful people that take care of Jimmer, Ike and Michaela. I want to thank Johnny and Aaron, Scott Freeney, who played for SU, Dana and Mike, my cousins, Mark, as well as Carol, and my cousins Mike and Bob Campese for being out there, and just everybody. So thank you. I can't thank you enough. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Got a bunch of messages from people as well. We're going to be putting those up, but it was an incredible time, a room filled with love, and I feel still speechless and still don't know what exactly to say, except for I thought that I was doing this alone a lot of the time, and God just showed me that while I was building with him, he was building around me, and I can't thank him enough for that. So I'm happy to be here with you. I thank you so much for hanging out with us Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and everything else that we do on site, on location, as well as all of the states we've been in. I figured out that I have interviewed and or been in a state broadcasting of 31 states of the 50 so far. We have connected with teams, people, or I've been there in 31 different states. I haven't been to all 31 broadcasting, but like I'm just saying to include that map there. 31 states we've connected with at least. Could be more. And Washington, D.C. makes 32 in the United States of America. We've also connected with you all over the world. So thank you for your love and support. We will get to all 50 in some way, shape, or form. Make no mistake about that. We've already reached out to Hawaii, so I'm very happy that we got out there a few times in connection with people in fantasy football, as well as broadcasting with recruiting for Syracuse. So it has been an amazing ride, so much fun, and like I said, I'm still very speechless. I had to wear this shirt today because I saw Sebastian Maniscalco last night with my dad. It was my birthday gift to him from last December, but we had to wait a while because he didn't come here until November. But my shirt says Italians' lives matter because who's going to make the sauce? So I definitely am happy to be here with you this morning wearing that, and Sebastian Maniscalco reminding me that some of us think alike about a lot of things. So happy to see him. Love to see my dad laughing the way that he did last night. So that was great. Murph and I are going to be talking inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin' on college football happenings. What's going on in college football? Murph and I always get going with it, and then like 3 hours later, we're like, let's take a commercial break. So we'll get into college football. We'll get into the NFL. The Jacksonville Jaguars are... It's just... I want to have words for you, but I don't. I want to have something, but it's that feeling. You know what I mean? When you just want to, you're not supposed to pick somebody up and just shake them, but you just, you just want to give them a little, come on, what are we doing? Okay? What? But I told you at the beginning of the year, there's been some changes in Jacksonville. They don't treat people the same anymore. So, there's some ugly in there. And I'm not saying that that's on the field, because it's not, but it doesn't help to have people in your organization that don't even care about good people. So Jacksonville's been a lot of things right now. We'll discuss it today. I'm sure we'll discuss it with Papa Joe later in the week. But they're just awful. They're just awful. Now, I do think the Lions, and I've said this for weeks, the Lions are a Super Bowl caliber team. I've been saying that pretty much all throughout the season. And they showed where they are, and Jacksonville showed where they are. It's the difference between having a lion in a jungle and a jaguar who's been neutered. I mean, that's the difference between the two. And then we'll also get into GG cards and breaks, and I will finally unveil these beauts. I got a bunch of cards graded, and you don't know what the grades are, and I'll be showing you, including my LeBron James rookie card that sat in a box for 20 years. So we'll find out what grade that got in just a little bit here with Murph. I have found Steph Curry, 2 Pat Mahomes, and a LeBron James rookie card. All of them just sitting in, one was, my Steph Curry was sitting in a pack in a drawer in my office. My 2 Pat Mahomes were in a stack of cards, and my LeBron James was in the box I opened it in. And the Pat Mahomes got a PSA 10. I sold that. I sold the raw Pat Mahomes that I had that wouldn't have gotten a PSA 10. It's still a good card. And just had some, you could see some things. And then my Steph Curry was a PSA 8, and that got sold as well. So LeBron is now available, and he's hanging out here in the studio. We'll find out what grade he got. And then Murph's going to show us a bunch of things too, because Murph decided in the last, I don't know, like 4 days, Murph took out a new mortgage so he could get some cards. So very happy to be here with you. We are picture in picture. Mama Murphy, please don't listen to the end of the show. Your son put all the money in the bank. He spent nothing. So with that being said, we're happy to be here. Murph, how are you?
I'm doing well. Just want to hit this before we get into anything. It was great to be there for you on Saturday. Getting to learn a little bit about how you made those relationships with everybody was pretty cool, and how you've touched different people's lives over the course of 21 years that you've been broadcasting. So just wanted to give you the old salute for that, my friend.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that, and I'm happy that you were able to be there and to be a part of it. And I honestly, my grandfathers were in that room, my grandmothers were in that room. My dogs, Mordu and Cinnamon and Shady, were in that room. Lily was home sleeping and resting, but she was right by my side as well. So, I genuinely can't thank I can't thank I can't thank everyone enough. I find myself just it's still surreal to me. I looked around that room and I just thought to myself, like, God assembled all of these great people together, and to be connected to one of them is a blessing. To be connected to all of these people is just truly remarkable, and I honestly can't thank God enough for how he's just allowed me to do what I love and love what I do, and then to have this life and to have these people, and it's just incredible. And this weekend really, really just spoke to me, and it told me a lot about what was happening in the background when I was working so hard. And I'm grateful, to have all those people there, and it was to celebrate me, and that's why they came, and that's why they took hours out, and they traveled, and you traveled, and to me, I never thought a day like that would come in my life, and I'm so humbled by it. I'm grateful by it. I feel a responsibility to it, and I can't thank God enough, because I've only set out to serve him first, achieve my dreams, and try to make a difference in the world. And when you feel, I mean, and I kept hearing those words, I kept hearing you're a light. You're a light for God. Continue to be a light. And when I opened my
That's
cards,
true.
well, thank you. And when I opened those cards up after the show, there was so many of the same message of like, continue to be a light, continue to do this, continue to go out there and help. And God was sending me messages that were very clear and they were consistent. And Roseanne Martinetti, I want to read something because she's met her at Marywood. She's the one that connected me with, just helped me with my career and helped me with getting to Disney. And Roseanne, I hope you don't mind this, but she sent me a few messages and they genuinely made me cry. She said, "The love from you and your friends filled the room. Although you celebrated all those who helped you on your career journey, we were there to celebrate you for your courage and pursuit of your dream, career, and the impact you have on our lives. It is important to follow your dream with your God-given talents. You did it all with ability, love, and kindness each step of the way. You are an unforgettable man. May God's blessings follow you wherever you go. We are all so proud of you for all you have accomplished and for the man you are. It has been a joy in my life to know you at Marywood as having a thirst for knowledge and taking advantage of opportunities, as well as the professional you have become. The love you give to others comes back to you 100-fold. You touch the Spirit of God in others because it lives in you. Thank you for remembering me. It was wonderful. It also came at a great time in my life. I appreciate the good and kind man you are. You do more good than you will ever know." And I heard so many things from so many people and from people that I genuinely respect. So I can't say enough. Mr. D, my Feeney, his wife Suzanne, this was like maybe the first time we had ever spoken, and because usually I'll see him, and the things that she said, she was like, "You give your talents to God. Like God gives you talent, and then you have to give it back." And she's like, "Whatever He's given you, you've given it back to Him double." And she said, at the end of your life, when God asks you, "What did you do with the talents that I gave you?" you can actually tell Him that you used them. And she said, she was like, even if you ask God to be on your podcast, He would probably do it too. So I just want to thank everybody for all of their words, and they're all family. So, I mean, including you, Murph. And yeah, I feel very touched. I feel very blessed. And yeah, it's something that will stay in my heart and my mind forever. So thank you. I can't believe it's 21 years, but thank you.
Yeah, it's that's an impressive feat. As I'm trying to calculate this, it's basically going all the way back to Marywood at 18 years old, and here you are now as a man with many ambitions, and you've set out with goals in your life and pretty much accomplished mostly everything that you've set out to do. I know there's still some things that you want to do.
Yeah.
It's been cool to see it from afar. And when we've talked about this before, it was never a and when Enrico brought you up to me and wanted to get you down here to bring you back on the broadcast, it was never a no, I don't want this guy here. I was like 100% like, please bring him here. I'm like, anything I can do to bring the memories back for you, or help out the broadcast and kind of just get things rolling again. It was awesome to do. Obviously we've developed a very good friendship since then. I don't know if you've kept up at all with what the broadcasts look like. I haven't really watched all that many games recently, but I know they've put a lot of new equipment into the gym finally.
Yeah.
It was something I was advocating for when I was there. we finally got some new equipment when we went to the Atlantic East, and they made and they built the Atlantic East network. So we got a lot of really cool graphics and stuff from that. So, having all that pre-built made my job so much easier, right? So, I mean, that was huge, and just seeing what it's looking like now with the new cameras and the new board inside and the audio board and everything, it just makes me happy to know that you and I played a small part in helping the next generation, right? Because obviously when you were there, you started MU courtside and everything, and obviously I didn't know anything about you when I got there, and it's a shame that I didn't until my junior year, because I think I would have brought you back a lot sooner had I known. But I what I kind of always go back and think about, at least for me, when I graduated, they kind of came to me with the idea of drawing up a sports media track. And the fact that my face is on it is, for me, one of the coolest things in the world. And obviously, I would have never had that opportunity if you hadn't started MU courtside and given me basically put it there. So I had the opportunity to do it for 4 years and, hand it off to some very capable hands that it's in right now. Do I wish I could still go back and do it 100 times over?
Yeah,
I do.
yeah.
And we talked about that, before I headed home when we went to the shop after the party. But yeah, I always enjoyed it. I know it's not what I'm doing right now, and that's okay. If everything goes well with, if everything went well on Monday and Friday last week with my, interviews with TaylorMade, I could potentially be, working for them as a club fitter, which would be really, really cool. I obviously I don't know what that's going to entail right now.
Yeah.
Whether or not I got the job or not, I won't find out, at least not yet. But that's okay. I just think that I've been put in this place for a reason, and I enjoy it. But I love that I still get to do some broadcasting stuff when we hop on the mic every week. And obviously we take a handful of Mondays off for holidays. Like obviously we were off last week for Veterans Day.
Yeah.
But still being able to have this here, and still being able to get behind a mic and talk for 2 hours or more, or whatever we end up doing. We know, you and I both know, we've gone as many as, I think we've gone to as late as 12:30 once, which was pretty darn impressive for us.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know we could sit here and just talk for hours and just not even, we have no idea. But yeah, I'm thrilled with where I'm at in life, and you played a big part in that, with being able to come on and do the show every week, and setting up my opportunity at Marywood by beginning the basketball broadcast, because that was one of the draws for me to go to school there, was when I was told during an open house that they have that and nobody currently does it.
Yeah.
So you better believe that was a major reason why I ended up going to Marywood. Now, it helped also the fact that I was able to play baseball for 2 years. But seeing the new studio, and seeing, how that, understanding the fact that I was going to be able to do play-by-play for basketball for 4 years, that was the major reason why I ended up going to school there. And I probably would not have gone to Marywood if it wasn't for that. Anyone that knows me knows that I wanted nothing to do with going to the Marywood open house. I didn't want to wake up. I was set in my ways that I was going to go to ESU. I was going to try out for the baseball team.
Yeah.
and that was going to be that. And I was going to do whatever media stuff I could do for them. They had some radio, things on the radio that I could do. I would probably, reached out to Blue Ridge to try and be a part of, basketball and football for ESU. But yeah, I wouldn't have gone there if that wasn't already there. So the fact that you began that was the whole reason I even went to Marywood in the first place. So I do sincerely thank you for that.
Well, it was something that I wanted to do, and Brandon Smith, I mean, I will never forget that moment. I mean, my career started when I was doing laundry 12 minutes before game time. And, I'll never forget. I was putting in that last quarter in Madonna Hall, and I had the blue collapsible hamper, and I had it on top of the washer, and I was putting that last quarter in, and Brandon called me, and he said, "Hey, man, the guy that usually does our games, he isn't here. He's not able to do this game. I don't really know, if he's coming back or what's going to happen and whatnot." He's like, I know you always wanted to do this. Do you want to come out?" And I said, "When do you need me?" He goes, "Like now." And I ran. I left my clothes there. I still don't know what happened to my clothes. And so RIP to those clothes, because I don't know if somebody stole them or threw them out. I have no idea. So
you're going out clothes, just gone.
Yeah. So I ran. I got to the game, and in the old gym, and I sat down. I didn't know who we were playing. I didn't know pronunciation of anything. I was by myself, and we did that game. And then they said, "Okay, come back." And it was like 3 days later or something. They're like, "Let's do another one." And I did the doubleheader and for men's and women's basketball. And they were like, "Hey, we like what you're doing, and we want to do it simultaneously on video and audio. We want to do it on radio and TV." They're like, people don't just like the show like it's funny, and we think we want to run with this. And I said, "Are we going to do men's and women's?" And they said, "We're definitely going to do men's." And I said, "I want to do both." And he kind of looked at me, and I said, "I want to do both. I'm not going to set up during a women's game for a men's game and say to the women like, 'Oh yeah, I'm here, but I'm not here for you.'" So I said, "I want to do both." And that was back in 2003, back when it wasn't cool to cover women's sports. People weren't broadcasting a lot of women's sports. People weren't talking about women's sports. It was never on television. And I said, "I want to do it." And I stuck by that. So I got upset years later when I went back to Marywood and the women's game was starting. And I said, "Where are the people? Where's the equipment?" They're like, "Yeah, they do men's games. They don't really do women's games anymore." I was like, I did not fight this hard to get us here to not cover them both. There is no reason why not cover them both. They're double headers. They're right here. It's more practicum hours for the kids. There's no reason. And I was like, if somebody doesn't sit and do it, like I was getting an itch. I was like, I'm going to go sit down and I'm going to do the game right now. I'll do the
Oh
game
my God, yeah.
I'll do the game.
What's crazy is I was done with practicum by my sophomore year. I had so many hours from basketball.
Yeah.
I would do I would double up every spring, the first 2 years. And I was done. Like Dr. Rutanis and Erdy and Kim basically were just like, you do you. Like, we're not worried about your practicum hours. Like at the end of the semester, you bring me the sheet. I know full well how much time you spent on basketball. I will sign it. I'm like, don't you worry about that. By the time my junior year came around, I was signing people's practicum hours as the producer of the broadcast, right? So it got to that point where I was signing stuff for people. So, and I was done. And I was still putting in probably 150 hours during basketball season, at least. And I didn't care. I did it because I loved it. And you did the same thing, right? And obviously when I got there, it was never a question that we were going to do both, right? It was always going to be the thing. And what's crazy is when I got there, the first 2 years, the women's team was far more competitive than the men's team.
Same for me.
It was.
Same for me.
Now, in terms of like my relationships with the players, I was a lot closer with the guys on the men's team because, we saw each other more often. I'd see them, out at night and we'd hang out and whatever. Um, so I saw them more often. I was closer with them, but that didn't mean I wasn't close with the girls on the women's team.
Yeah.
I would still see them out, and like there was plenty of times where we would go out. It was on a Saturday night after the basketball game. The games were at 1 and 3 o'clock. Games were done. We were probably going to have dinner at this point. This is probably like my sophomore, junior year, like as I was 21, approaching 21. Anyway, and we'd be getting ready to go out. We'd have dinner at McGowan, and come back to the apartment. Kind of just take a shower, get ready to go out and everything. And I'd get a text from Joey or from Tommy or from Grassi or whoever else, or from Jack, and they say, hey, we're going out. Big win today. You want to come out and, have a drink? Hell yeah. Maybe I wouldn't spend the whole night with them, but like if I was going out to hang out with the guys from the baseball team, I would make it a point to go over and, go down to wherever, or my senior year when they had a house right across the street from where the baseball house was.
Yeah.
I made it a point to go over there and hang out for a little bit, even if they weren't like having people over. Tommy would text me one day and be like, hey, we're having a couple people over, nothing crazy. If you're across the street, why don't you come over for a drink or something like that? And I would, hang out for a little bit. I remember there was one night Joey had texted me, God rest his soul. I hope he's doing well up there. Take care, King. But he texted me one day and says we're not really having anybody over, but if you want to come by, we're gonna hang out, just the guys and maybe some of the girls from the girls team. So I did, and we hung out, and there was so much stuff that was talked about, and we were having a good time and everything, and there were some cool stories that were being told that I asked, like, hey, you mind if I bring this up? And they were like, oh yeah, like go for it. And I would bring up some cool stories from those nights, and and I always made it a point to credit everybody, and they all enjoyed it. I got so many emails and parents coming up to me after games just saying how much they appreciate me doing it, because not only, and it's not like I'm just there to do the game. My freshman year, yeah, it was probably more like that, but I also didn't really know the guys yet, right? Like Tommy and Grassi and Tank, like those guys were my age. I lived across the hall from them most of my freshman year. So I saw them all the time. We saw them in NAS. We saw them in log and in the rooms and everything. We'd see them when we'd go out. So I knew them well. And obviously, Joey and Jack and those guys were the year below, so they were only a year younger. Again, I saw them all the time. That's when it kind of started to develop into like, hey, like, I'll hang out with these guys and whatnot. And I'm, I don't know how it was for you with the players when you were there, but if it was anything like me, getting, being able to hang out with the guys and the girls and, have these stories and everything that you're able to bring up, it makes things more fun. Like I remember the one time that really hit somewhere, that kind of hit home was from the women's team. Marissa, her mom, I think it was when her mom passed. She had Alzheimer's, and from what I had found out,
yeah.
And I kind of told a story about how, my grandmother had lost the battle with Alzheimer's about a year and a half earlier, and I understand, like I know what it's like to see someone go through that and how horrible it is. So, I made it a point to, extend best wishes and everything. And, the next game I kind of had, her and her family came up and just said, thank you. And that's all I needed to hear from them, because I understood where they were coming from. Right. Being able to kind of relate personal experiences to something that happens in a real world situation that is so horrible,
Yeah.
like that was, it kind of, because they were at home watching the game, and they heard me tell the story. So, it was something that hit home for them and hit home for me, and to be, to be able to kind of, give them a little, smile in a horrible time like that was, it's something that kind of, it hit home for me. Um, yeah, but the stories that you get to tell, getting to know the players and the coaches and everything, and then when the players, when I'm not gonna name her because I think the story's funny enough. I don't think I need to call her out by name. But one of the women's players, one of their better players on the team, was sitting at the desk when I got there. It was probably an hour and a half before tip off or something like that. I go, hey, what are you not doing out there? And I swear she looks me dead in the face like a laser and goes, "Oh, I got mono. I can't play." And I'm just like, "What?" I'm like, well, "Okay." Like, I'm not gonna say you have mono. I'll just probably say you're sick or something. That you're out with an illness. But that was something that was, I kind of chuckled a little bit, and it was kind of bizarre. Uh, um, but it was part of like me getting to know them and me knowing them for as long as I had, because that girl was a freshman when I was a sophomore. So she was there 3 years when I was there. And when we did the Murph versus the Pacers segment my senior year, she not only was more than happy to do, to do the video with me, she wanted me to play one-on-one against her. And like, this girl was good. So that kind of just showed you how much fun we had with it. And I think that segment, and I know you being someone that played basketball for a lot of your life, that's something I wish you would have thought of, because I think it would have been cool for you too. But being able to do that particular segment my senior year, and we did not miss a game. Literally, there were players we didn't get to because we didn't have enough games, but we did not miss a game. We had a women's player for every women's game. We had a men's player for every men's game. So safe to say we didn't sell it short or anything. But and all of them enjoyed it. Like, there was some where we recorded 3 in a day. Like, I remember the one that I played Tommy, I played Tink, and I played Donovan all in one day. Literally, Don was the last one, and it was around the world. This is still the only one I won. And literally, it just came down to the half court shot. And we're standing. It took us probably at least a good 10 minutes for one of us to finally make it. And I was the one that made it. But the guys were there. They were all getting ready for practice and everything. And Rico kind of had said over to me, he's like, you probably only got like another five minutes or so before we gotta, start practice and everything. I'm like, all right, if we don't get it, we'll come back later. We'll come back later and we'll finish it. Or we'll re-record something else. And I made it, and all the guys literally just mobbed me like I just hit a game winner or something like that. I still kind of feel bad for Don, but he kind of roasts me about it a little bit too. And he's like, dude, you just got lucky. You just made it first. But I'm sure you have some good story. I do. I want to hear some of your stories from when you were doing games, because I don't think we've gotten to talk about that enough.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. So, I mean, that day, like I said, I'll never forget that day I mean, my career literally started with, we need somebody, can you do it? And
now, is it just radio at the time, or was it?
It was radio, I think, for that game, and then they said, we're gonna do. We talked about it. We think it's good enough. Let's do radio and TV simulcast, and we just started doing it. and I created the original graphics for it, the MU courtside logo. I still like I
Mhm.
have the drawing of the logo. So putting the logo together, putting they didn't even used to put the score up. They didn't have like a
I
score.
know.
So I created the box with Mark Ruddy to put that up, and they had to literally put it up, take it down, and they had to update it manually because it wasn't connected to the scoreboard or anything. I
Did that
Go
when
ahead.
you was did you guys get that scoreboard bug box thing when you were still there?
Yeah,
Because
we
we tried to get it to work and it worked. It only worked sometimes.
we got it to work, but like the thing is when I started, we were in the old gym, and I had to set up. So I'm in a suit under the bleachers, connecting wires, unplugging wires, running around, putting the camera up, making sure the camera looks nice. And Dr. Mary Jo Gunning, who was the AD at the time, I'll never forget. She was doing something at halftime during a game, and she came over to the table, and I said, "Hey, Mary Jo." She's like, "Hey, Dan," and I said, "Thank you for everything." She goes, "Are you kidding me?" She goes, "Thank you." And I mean, Eric Grunman told me when he sat me in his office, and it's funny because he recruited me to play at Marywood, and he wanted me to be on the team. So I was coming off.
Imagine if you were on the team and you didn't, and there was nobody to
Well,
broadcast.
that was the thing is like I
Where
didn't.
where things would have been by the time I got there.
Well, I didn't have a coach, or the coach that I had as a senior in high school was not a good experience. And so I told Eric, I was like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, well, just come run with us. He's like, even if you don't play this year, just come and run. He gave me a basketball roommate. We never ended up meeting each other in the room. He was not there. I switched my roommates because during orientation, Pat and I was like, we just kind of connected. And I was like, you want to be roommates? And so we ended up being roommates. So, but it was set up for me to be on the team, and he was like, even if you don't want to play this year, just come out and see us, just come run with us. I said, I don't know, coach, I'll see. And my senior year at Marywood, I considered trying out. I was like, I love the game so dearly. This is my last year. But in my heart of hearts, and a lot of people don't know this, like I sat with this for a long time personally, just me and God, just praying. Like, should I broadcast? Should I be on the team? And I just couldn't give it up. I refused to give up broadcasting. I didn't want to. I knew I was going to have to leave it after I graduated. I knew that it was created for students to get experiences, and that's what I did it for, to give them professional experience so they're more than ready for when they go out into the real world. And knowing that I was going to have to leave it out of my control when I graduated, in my control, I couldn't leave it. And I mean, but things that happen within that, I mean, Mary Jo Gunning, what she said to me, thanking me for what I did. And then when Eric Grunman sat me down in his office and he was like, Dan, you have no idea the effect that you've had. He said, the fact that you do these games and you have this, it helps us on the basketball teams when we go out. It helps the entire athletic department. He's like, what you've done for us, like the domino effect of that, we're never going to be able to thank you for. He said, outside of writing you $1,000 check, I'll give you anything for the rest of my life for what you've done. And then when I was back on campus years and years later, and I was dating somebody at the time, he saw me on the sidewalk. I saw him. We walked up to each other, and he said the exact same thing. He was like, I cannot tell you the exponential effect he's had on our program, on athletics here at Marywood, on what he's done to help us. And I mean, there's stories. There was a mom that came up to me at one game in the old gym. She was like, I just want to let you know that we watch your games. And she's like, we actually taped a game, like we taped them. She's like, we went back and we watched a game multiple times. We already know who won. We already know what happened. But she's like, you guys were so funny that we go back just to laugh. Like, just when we need a laugh, we go back and watch the tape. And then at halftime in the new gym, and Mary Jo Gunning told me this too, she's like, if not for you, we wouldn't have put anything in this gym. In this Insulaco, in the arena, like she said, none of this stuff would be here if not for your show. And I had teachers that took credit for it, and they had meetings that they didn't let me be a part of. And she said to me personally, she's like, your show is the reason why there's literally anything in here that would allow a show to happen. Like, we did this because of your show. This is why all of this stuff is here to be able to run a broadcast. It's because of you and what you've done. And
I almost want to reach out to them and just, say I'd love to come and see all the new stuff, because I'm considering driving up and going to a game at some point.
Well, yeah.
I mean, remember, for me, it's only 40 minutes to get there.
Well, and
So it's not a long drive at all. I almost want to reach out to Kim or Ernie and say, hey, like, I'm going to come to this game. I'd love to meet the guys just to kind of, see how they're doing. I want to see it.
yeah. Well, and the thing is like when I went out there or when I was there, we got carried on UPN. We got carried on Fox. We got we got HD cameras for the first time ever at the school. Like, there were all these things that happened. And at halftime in the new gym, Joe and I would do the show, Joe Forgione and I. And I'll tell you the story about how I got Joe, because I worked to get Joe, because I was doing a lot of it by myself, and then I was just bringing people in rotation, but nobody, and I appreciate everybody that helped.
I get that.
But I wanted consistency. So Joe and I are sitting. Actually, let me tell you how I got Joe, and then I'll tell you the story. So Joe, something about Joe, I was like, I don't know a lot about this guy, but I want to work with this guy. Like, I feel like he can do it. We had a few conversations, and something was kind of speaking to me. The day I was like, I have to get him, I was in Regina Hall, and I was sitting with Mary Pat Murray.
Was that building always kind of creepy back then too?
Oh, yeah.
Because I was only ever in that building twice, and both times it felt very, very creepy.
Oh, when you went around the hall, you definitely thought that, like, it was haunted. But I mean, but sitting there, and I was sitting with Mary Pat Murray and Madonna Mama, and we were just sitting and talking, and the glass was there because that's where you had to sign into Regina Hall. And Joe came around. There was a girl that came around the corner, and I forget her name, but she came around and she was moving her stuff, and she had an L cart, and one of the boxes fell off, and Joe was talking to somebody, and the box falls off, and while he's talking, he just picks it up, and like it's nothing, and he puts it back on. Are you good? And then he walks down with her and like holds onto the cart and makes sure that she's okay. And I said, that's why I want to work with Joe. Not just because I think he has the talent, but because of the man that he is. That's because I look at the character of the person. There's a lot of talented people, but if you don't have good character, I don't want to work with you. And so I wanted to work with Joe. And I remember I sat with him, and I like pitched him on it, and I pitched him on it, and he's, I don't know if I want to do it. I don't know if I'm comfortable. I don't know how you do it. And he finally agreed to do it. And we had so much fun. And there was a ref at halftime. And Joe and I, we wouldn't leave. It would be halftime, and we go sit in the bleachers behind where the setup was, and we just sit and talk. And this ref comes over to us at halftime, and I looked at him and I go, what did we do? I said, what did we say? We said something, and the ref heard it. And he comes over, he goes, hey guys, I just want to let you know something. I love your work. I love what you guys do. And I want to tell you something, and I want you to hear it. And I'm looking at Joe, and I'm like, okay. He said, me and my buddies, we go downtown. He said, when we're in downtown Scranton, we go out to the bar. And we tell them to shut off ESPN and shut off all those other games and to turn you guys on. He said, we would rather watch a Marywood game than a game on ESPN because you're better than the people that are out there doing it on ESPN. And he said, I'm not just telling you this. He said, my buddies have been watching basketball, covering basketball for 30 or 40 years. We all prefer you guys over anything else that's on. I just want you to know that. I want you to know that somebody appreciates it and someone is listening. And I looked at Joe, and I kind of just like leaned over put my head on his shoulder, and I was like, holy crap. Like, I can't even believe somebody just said that. So, I mean, from UPN to Fox to getting the HD cameras to then putting the connections in the new gym because of the work that we did, to having Joe for 2 years. And I remember one time the team, the the men's team was not doing good, and Joe and I were doing a game, and it was so bad. And I would try to stay positive but be real, and Joe is just like, "Get me out of this gym." And and I remember looking at him during a game. So I got a phone call. I won't say who it's from, but I know who it's from. And I got a phone call, and he said, "Hey, we had some people call in the community, but there were people at Marywood that I think were trying to get me to quit. It was like I built this whole thing they didn't want me to build. They thought of it as a nuisance. Oh, it's more work for all of us." And then it ends up taking off, and then they wanted to push me out and kind of pretend like I didn't exist, which they essentially did when they took my name off of everything. And I still think that Marywood absolutely, positively needs to right that ship. But if they don't, God knows the work I did. And at the end of my life, lies aren't going to count up in heaven. So because I love Marywood, I'm just disappointed in some of the people that are there. And so I did the work that I did what we did, and they called us up, and they're like, "Oh, there's some people in the community that are complaining that you guys are too tough on the team. This is a Marywood broadcast. You need to be about Marywood. You need to do this." And I said, "Well, it's a cardinal sin I still say it to this day. It's a cardinal sin as a broadcaster to be impartial." I said, "I can't lean on Marywood's side. I have to be down the middle. I want Marywood to win every game. You know that. I wear Marywood stuff everywhere I go. I go to Marywood. Like, I want Marywood to win all the time, but I have to be impartial." And he's like, "Well, just go easier on him or whatever." So I sat down with Joe, and I looked at Joe, and we got our headsets on, and I said, "Hey, man," I said, "make sure it's off." I said, "I got to talk to you before the game." And I looked at Joe, and Joe and I, if you go back and watch any of those videos, and I got a bunch of them, our facial expressions spoke probably louder than the funniest moments we had verbally were funnier from the moments we had in physical comedy. Or I'm sorry, it was more funny in physical comedy of saying nothing than it was the funny things that we said. So I looked at him and I said, "They told me that you and I got to be nicer, and we got to talk better about this team." And he leaned back, and he had his headset on, and he goes, and his eyes went up like this. He goes, "You serious, bro?" He goes, "Are they watching what we're watching?"
Are they watching the same team?
And I remember I was like, "Dude, just try, please." I said, I don't want any more phone calls from these people. I already deal with a bunch of stuff with them that I don't deserve. Like, I don't want any more phone calls. So we did the show, and there was a game that we were playing, and we were down. It was like
getting blown out.
We were down by at least 20 points at halftime. And Joe and I, every time he would go to say something, I'm like, "Joe, come on." And he's like, "Look at this. Look at this." So I remember one time where I was like, "How about that?" He goes, "I'm not going to lie." I go, "I'm not going to lie either." I said, "How about we say what it is? We say the truth, negative or positive, and then we spin it to a positive." I said, "My only way around this to not lie, even though it's bad right now, is to say what's happening, but then talk about the better way to fix it. No, they're not making any shots." And it was so bad. And it was like an air ball, or I think it banged off the backboard or something like that. And I said, "Well, if they start making some of those, then they could bring this game closer." And Joe goes,
man.
Joe goes, he goes, "He missed the shot, but did you see the spin on that ball? It was beautiful." And
I found myself constantly, if it was a blowout, and luckily we didn't really have all that many blowouts, but I found myself, while there were a couple, I would almost stop talking about the game, and start talking about other things to kind of maybe take your mind off the game. And I think I get that in part from what the Mets broadcasters do.
Yeah.
Because anybody that's ever watched a Mets game where the Mets are getting blown out will see Gary, Keith, and Ron just being absolute what's the right word? Knuckleheads.
Yeah. Mess
And
around.
they just have so much fun in the broadcast booth where like they'll go and rip packs of cards, like old school cards, or they'll start talking about, the 86 team or something else. I would find myself starting to, tell funny stories or just talk about other things coming up or talking about, hey, 6 minutes left, Pacers down by 25. Coming up later this week, the Pacers take on Gwinnett.
Yeah.
On Saturday at 3 p.m. Men play at 1, women play at 1, men play at 3. We got the coverage on TV Marywood. So yada. I found myself trying to do that.
Yeah.
And almost not talk about the game. And I don't know if that was, something that they liked or they didn't like, but I never had anybody say anything to me about it. But yeah, that's ironic though that all those things were happening when you guys had to attempt to spin things positive for a team that was not exactly playing all that well.
No, I mean and the thing is, I mean, and then Joe, and Joe came to my defense, and Joe, I mean, when I was in the hospital, and apparently there was an attempted coup, like I was in the hospital, I had to get my tonsils out, and I was out of school for a month, rehabbing from it. Joe, they had a private meeting with Joe and this one like bully kid that they were trying to like push in there. And they met with him, and like teachers met with him, and they looked at Joe like, "Hey, if you'll go with us, like we can push Dan out of here." And Joe called me up and told me about the meeting. He said it was ridiculous. He said, "There's no way I'm not going to defend you." And he's like, "You gave me a chance." And so like while I was in the hospital, they were trying to get rid of me, which I still to this day, and my advisor at Marywood was trying to prevent me from graduating because I took quote unquote too many credits. So there was like some loophole that I took a coaching class when I was supposed to take a half a credit, and I took a 3-credit course, and then another teacher caught it, and he was like, "Hey, just so you know, this is what they tried to do. Your teacher's retiring. So if he was able to pull this off and she didn't sign off that it was okay, and I didn't have her sign this sheet of paper, then like he could have found this way to try and keep you from walking." So I was going to come out of the hospital, drive back to Marywood, and then have him tell me I can't graduate because he's just a sick human being. And so Dr. Mirabito, I want to thank you for finding that loophole. And he did a bunch of work, and like he let me know, he kept me abreast of everything. I want to thank my teacher for the coaching class that figured it out. But it's funny because Marywood taught me a lot of things. And one of the things it taught me was that people are evil in this business. People are vengeful in this business. People are jealous in this business. I mean, if anything, Marywood taught me how to genuinely be ready for the disgusting part of this world and the very dirty part of media, because I had really dirty people at Marywood trying to do things when I'm laying in a hospital bed. So, I mean, for everything that Marywood has been to me, I thank Marywood for the backhanded compliments, the hate, the neglect, the jealousy, and the lies. And I also thank them for the education, because there's so many good people at Marywood, and then there's other people that I wish would take off their teaching whistle and leave. So, I find it, I mean, it's hard for me because everything in my heart was about building something there, and it was never truly just about me. And it's sad to see that it was about other people there. And, I mean, I told my dad, it was like 10 years later, I said, "Dad, nobody knows I did MU Courtside." I said, "Nobody knows I created." I was like, "I created the graphics. I drew the original stuff. I put the team together. We finally got a good team, and I love that team. I love the girl that did our audio. I loved my camera people. Like when we finally got, because I was the person responsible that nobody helped. People weren't helping me. The teachers weren't helping me. I was doing the sign-up sheet. They wanted me to fail. So I'm doing the sign-up sheet by myself. I'm doing all this stuff by myself. I'm trying to put a skeleton crew together in the 11th hour. And the people that dedicated themselves to doing the show, I cannot thank them enough. And Joe, beyond everybody, I can't thank him enough. And, you know, putting that together, it was truly like, if I decided at any given time to just stop, that thing was not going to go. And I absolutely, positively, it's my first kid. It's what started my career. There wouldn't be 21 years if not for November 2003, if not for Brandon, if not for Steve, if not for Anthony, if not for Joe. I mean, there's so many people that I can thank in there. Mark did so much work within it. And, you know, I mean, it was so hard sometimes. And the funny thing is, every time I got on the air and I put that headset on and I sat down, I was like, nobody knows what you go through just to make this show possible. Like, nobody knows the things that you've done. They don't know that you were under the bleachers in the dust, connecting things together. They don't know that when something wasn't working, there wasn't people there to help you necessarily. They don't know that people didn't show up today. They don't know that this teacher didn't want to come because it was a Saturday. Like, they have no idea what that was. And it's funny because you had a totally different experience and you had all these people behind you, and the people that did me dirty are the people that were like, how can we help you, Brendan? But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, if the show went on and if everything that I did to try and make that real and genuine and tangible and stick, you know, if that leads to you having something, it leads to Brian Johnson, to Joe continuing it. If it led to that, then I'm happy that the hell I went through, that they were nicer to you, that they valued you guys, that they helped you guys, because there were a lot of moments where I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and it was like, get the hell out of here, Dan. You know, we don't care if this survives. And so the fact that it's still alive today, 20 plus years later, I mean,
it's old enough to buy you and I a drink.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, I can't, you know, but I had so many good times. The thing was, whatever happened off the air, whatever I went through off the air was never going to change me on the air. And so, you know, that's my thing, is like, I would like to thank Marywood for giving me thick skin. I would like to thank them for helping me understand what the world was going to look like, because this cold, dark, and nasty world, sometimes I was ready for it. Because when you have a teacher and an advisor try to screw you over, I mean, what can be worse than that? Your parents? So, I mean, you know, you get to a point where you learn and you grow. But, you know, Marywood, to me, it was the athletic department. I mean, the communications department didn't have my back. Mary Beth did, Dr. Mirabito did, but it was the athletic department. They said, we don't care if they don't give you credit over there. Like, we know what you did. You're here in this building. You're with us. You're doing things for us. You're helping us. You care about us, and we know that. And, you know, Mary Jo Gunning, her fight for me, Eric Grunman's fight for me, Tara Machaco's fight for me, like, I'll never forget that. And Enrico Mastriani, and, you know, I mean, I can't thank them enough for everything that they've done, because they helped to push for me. And, you know, Gabby Holko and Jen Carlton, they took care of me. So, and the day that Enrico asked me to come back, and he said, you know, Tara and I were talking, and we're going to do this tip-off dinner, and we've never done it before, and we want to raise money. It's going to be our big fundraiser for men's and women's basketball. We want you to be our first keynote speaker. I had no idea what to say. I told him, I said, Bob Costas is a keynote speaker. I don't deserve that. And they had me come there that day, and they had me speak. And sitting there in that moment, it was, and my dog got to be there, Lily got to be there, but it was such an amazing moment. And I had somebody that sat at my table that went to Marywood before me, and after all of the celebration and the honoring of my work and finally feeling like, okay, people know what I did, this guy comes up to me and he goes, I'm the one that really created all of this. And I was like, bro, it just never stops. And so, I mean, it definitely has been bittersweet at times, but it's just, I mean, that's been my life. If I create something good, somebody takes credit for it, somebody wants it to fail, and at the same time they rest in the laurels of it and they get to enjoy it. They got money for it, they got opportunities. I never saw the money, I never saw the grants. I didn't know anything that happened in the background. I just know that when I went into a gym, old or new, with the plugins, without the plugins, that we were going to make the show. Regular cameras, HD cameras, it didn't matter, because the show will always go on with me. There could be a zombie apocalypse, and I will, through walkie-talkie or megaphone or something, I will take a helicopter and the radio out of the helicopter, and I'll fly above everything, and I'll give reports. Like, there's never going to be a time where the show is not going to go on by the grace of God. And I had so much fun. Joe helped me to finally breathe because I had a partner for the first time. And I can't thank him enough for everything he did for me. And a long time ago, I didn't know this quote, but he embodied it before I knew it. As they said, your real friends will fight for you in rooms you're not in. And Joe was the first person that did that for me, that I really knew had done that for me. And so I want to thank Joe. I want to thank you. I want to thank Brian Johnson. I remember I called Brian because Joe gave it to Brian. And I called up Brian, and he was like, hey, man, like, how you been? And this and that. We were talking about he was applying for a job. And he was like, I said, thank you for what you're doing with MU Courtside. He's like, are you kidding me? He was like, you built this thing. He's like, why are you thanking me? He said, I should be thanking you. He's like, you did. And he said all these words. And I said, Brian, this conversation makes up for every moment of pain or sadness that I felt. And so to Brian, to Joe, to, Mary Beth Holmes, and to Dr. Mirabito, I mean, I can't, Jay Hammerin up in heaven, God bless him up there. I can't thank them enough. To all of my camera people, my audio, everyone in the control room, everyone that worked on this, to Mark Ruddy being open to me trying to bring in some new graphics and do some things and change some things. I thank him for that. It's just been an incredible experience. And, I got to thank the other people in my heart too, because if not for them being the way that they were, I wouldn't be as strong as I am today. So, I appreciate that too. And, when I got to come back, they said when I went back to a reunion a few years back, Ernie and Mark were like, we want to have you on the show. We're promoting that you're coming back. Like, you can get on the radio again. So, I want to thank Ernie Mangoni. And, I think that it's really been humbling to think about it, but there are so many. If I go back to the best moments in my career, so many of them were at Marywood. And so as tough as there was that adversity and whatnot, I would tell anybody to go to Marywood. I would tell them to go there. I would tell them to attack the day, to seize the day. I would be an ambassador if they would let me be, to, really just discuss everything that we did in the video editing and the audio editing and all of the intricacies and learning these things. I mean, I would spend days on a 3-minute video. I would spend days. I would sleep in the video lab. Like, there were deer outside at 3:00 in the morning, and I looked at them and they looked at me, and I said, I am too tired for you to be afraid of me. And we would just look at each other like I was awake. I remember I slept in there to the point where, like, people are coming in the morning and I'm in the video room. So, the best memories I have, there's a dirty memory, and I'm going to tell the dirty memory now. And hopefully, like, I can, tell this on tour someday. But there was this time where Brandon Smith was sitting in the back, and because, like, our control room was behind the bleachers at one point. And so there's a ton of people in there all watching it, monitoring everything. And then Steve Stahl, my buddy, was back in the radio. he was back at the radio station, and he was supposed to be controlling stuff. So we go on commercial, or we go on. They tell me like we're off the air, and just so you know, like we're off the air right now for halftime. You're good, audio, video. Like you could say whatever you want, do whatever you want. Like get up, relax, do your thing. And this is what I'll tell people: do not ever think you're off the air when you're off the air. Like when they tell you that they're off the air, do not think that you're truly off the. I mean, it's just a rule of thumb, because gosh forbid there's ever a mistake, you may still be on the air. And so they told me we're off the air, and I would always joke with Brandon, and I would say inappropriate things. I wouldn't swear, but I'd say like dirty stuff because we're like family. So I said to Brandon, I said, "Hey B," he goes, "Yeah." I said, "How about you be the macaroni and I'll be the cheese so I could spread myself all over you." That's what I said to him on the mic, because we were
on a
off.
hot mic.
Yeah, I was on the mic, but we were off. So we're not on radio, we're not on TV. So we get back to the game. I'm doing the game by myself. He's in my headset. He goes, "Hey, you're doing the game. You're doing a great job. I don't want you to respond to me," because the thing is I had this mic. So while I'm doing the game, I had to talk to them, and I had to like talk to the people. So I had to find a way to like.
Yeah, because there was no way to just talk to them in the control room.
Yeah, I mean, you.
There wasn't like a talk to the director button.
Yeah, so it was kind of like you're trying to do things or whatever. But yeah, so I'm talking to them, and Brandon goes, "Don't make like you can hear me right now. Keep doing the game. It's important that you just keep on going with what you were saying. But I want you to know this." He said, "We are dying in here right now. We are laughing so hard. We can't stop." He said, "When I told you that we were off TV and off radio, we were not on television. But Steve thought that he had shut off your mic, and he hit the wrong button. So you just told 10,000 people in Northeast PA what you said to me."
Oh my goodness.
And I remember, and he goes, "And right, like we're okay. Right now we're okay." So he goes, "I just want you to know that." And then he laughs. So I'm doing the game, and I'm looking back and forth, and I said, "And to everybody that heard me at halftime, Brandon, I meant every word." And then I kept going.
So you doubled down on it.
Oh, listen, anybody that knows me knows that if you think you caught me in a place where you're going to make me uncomfortable, I'm going to make you uncomfortable that you tried to make me uncomfortable.
Oh my goodness.
So
that's funny.
Yeah, so we doubled down on that. But I mean, yeah, Marywood, I learned so much. I did so much. I made the right choice. And, you know, I was never going to quit on MU courtside. That was never going to happen. You know, I was the first sports director there. I was the first back-to-back station manager. They never let someone be voted a station manager 2 years in a row. And I ran TV for 2 years in a row, first person in school history. I went to Dr. Lawrence and said, "We need to have a sports director." He's like, "Build up the plan and show me what it is." I made the bullet points for what that job was going to entail. Like, first sports director there, first back-to-back station manager, created MU courtside. There were game broadcasts before, but as far as I knew, there was no logo, there was no name. It was just kind of like Marywood Broadcast. There was no graphic stuff like the things that I did. There wasn't consistency. I don't think it was simultaneous. I think they said they might have done TV and radio before together, but the consistency of it, everything that we did at Marywood, when it came to what it looked like, what it sounded like, what it felt like, the professional, like I don't want to say the professionalism, because I'm sure the people before were professional too, but like what we did and how we did it, that branding of it and creating of it, that all came from me. It came from my heart, because that's who I am. I want to create. I don't want to take something. And my dad told me this a long time ago. He said, "You are my son, and I know you, and I know that you could take something that's flying and keep it going. But God put something in you that you're supposed to take the things that are almost dead and give them life." And courtside, when I got to it, I'm a broadcasting fan. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what that was, what it could, I mean, I had no idea that I could do it. When Brandon called me, I knew nothing. So to have it go all these years to you go to Marywood and you want to go to Marywood because there's nobody doing it and you could do it and you could be a part of it, like to get to that point where I didn't know that I could do it and you knew that you could do it, like not that we didn't believe in ourselves, but like I didn't even know it was available to me. You knew it was available to you. Anything that's come from there, and anybody that came before me that tried and did stuff and worked on it and cared about it, I appreciate that. But nobody's going to say that they bore my child. You know what I mean? And that to me, like that was the starting of my career. November 2003 at Marywood University will always be the start of my career. Men's and women's basketball, caring about women's sports, all of those things will always live with me and be with me, and nobody can ever take that away. And my mom and my dad know about it, you know, Mary Jo Gunning, like everybody that was there. And it just meant the world to me that I felt welcome by the athletic department. You know, I continued to feel welcome by them over the years. And I'm just overjoyed by the fact that I got to do anything there and I got to make it count. And I mean, all the experience I got at Marywood helped me to be who I am today, to do the things I do today, to know how to rig a television and make it work. Like they have helped me become the man that I am today. So all the adversity, thank you, Marywood. All the love, thank you, Marywood. All the incredible teachers, thank you, Marywood. All of the teachers that created problems for no reason, thank you, Marywood. Like Marywood helped me become the man that I am today. And every heartache, every great moment, every positive tear, every scream out loud, like I wouldn't change a thing that happened at Marywood, because Marywood University helped to grow me into the person that I am right now, that I am today. And I love it dearly. And Jerry Hart and Roseanne Martinetti being there over the weekend to celebrate 21 years with me. Like Jerry was my first ever fan from day zero. Roseanne was there for me. She helped me get the Disney College program. She saw something in me. June Ann Greco, I have to thank June Ann because she has always been good to me. Donald Godwin, who moved out to San Diego. I mean, he's like another dad to me, Dr. Godwin, and I absolutely love him. And he went through a lot of problems similar to what I went through, and he's a grown man. He's a 40-plus-year-old man at Marywood banging into walls that shouldn't be there, and I was banging into walls that shouldn't be there. And so we were cut from the same cloth, but we also kind of reminded each other, like, we're not the problem. We just have to keep going. And if we're not appreciated, then we need to, you know, go elsewhere, but we need to just kind of keep going with this. And so, I mean, are there great stories? Yes. Is there fun? Absolutely. And whether I went through a breakup, I stubbed my toe, I just found $5 or whatever happened, I went on the air the same way, I broadcasted the same way, and I would just put that headset on and I would just hit this like this groove, this slipstream, this like when you were on a video game and you're like playing Mario Kart and you hit that turbo. Like as soon as you gave me that microphone, everything about my life was dedicated to this, dedicated to my craft. And I can't thank Marywood enough for the opportunities that they gave me, for the open door policy. I had a radio show the second week I was there, and I love MU courtside. I pray to God that someday they will let me be an ambassador, a liaison, an adjunct professor, something that would allow me to stay connected to it, because it got to a point with Enrico where Enrico's like, the quality is down. This is not where it's supposed to be. Like, and I told him, I said, I'll come down there and fix it. Like, I will literally come down there and fix it. And I called you about that. So like, there is nothing about courtside that I don't love and I don't care about. We did volleyball. You know, there's so many things, and I learned so much doing volleyball. But
I was asked to do volleyball, but I didn't feel like I could put on a good product
I had to learn.
because I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And
I had to learn.
yeah.
But I mean,
So I ended up turning that down simply because I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't want to go out there sounding like a noob that knew nothing about volleyball.
No, I learned
So
a lot.
I
Back
think
then.
they ended up just doing live streams for that one.
Yeah.
But I mean, back then there was literally like there wasn't much. It was like, hey, if we want to, if we don't want to, it's okay. Like I remember talking to to communications department, and it was like, if we do the show, great. If we don't do the show, and then it became like we have to do the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I love it. It's NCAA basketball. I mean,
It is.
D1, 2, or 3. It doesn't matter. Like Mike Tirico.
It could be junior. It could be
Right.
junior college basketball in the middle of Alaska
Yeah.
in January when it's minus 30 degrees outside. It doesn't matter.
Still basketball.
It's still college basketball.
Right.
But now they've expanded it. Now they're doing baseball games. Now they're doing soccer games. They're doing field hockey. Like I couldn't be more proud of what that's become, because you kind of helped me get it to where it needed to be. And then I left it in a place where these guys that are there now were able to take it and expand it
Yeah.
into all the other sports. I don't know exactly how many sports they're doing. I know they're doing, like I said, I know they're doing baseball and softball and a few soccer games. I know they did one of the soccer games a couple of weeks ago. But now they're getting back into basketball, and the season's just about to start. I'm tempted to drive up just to go, not even say anything, just go and go to a game and, just hang out in the stands.
Yeah. Well,
And I do. I want to thank Enrico Mastriani, and I want to thank Tara Machado in a really, really big way, because like they brought me back and they connected us to each other. Like they gave me something that I never thought I was going to have. They made me feel welcome again. They made me feel like a part. Like when you build something and you come back to the building and you see all these people running around the building and nobody knows who built the building. Like when Enrico came in, I told him, I said, you have literally approached this as if like you've been here the whole time. He treated me like he was with me when I was building the program, when I was building MU Courtside. It was like he knew all of it. And so Eric Runman to be who he is, Enrico to be who he is, Tara Machado, Gabby and I are extremely close to this day, and I love Gabby Holko. She let me
Is
come
she still at Susquehanna?
Yes. And she let me come into her locker room and celebrate with her team and
Yeah.
record it on video.
I remember that.
Like she let me go in and do, like I was right there with her, and we walked in and celebrated. And I mean, one of the greatest honors of my life is when a coach says, I want you to be in my locker room, because that's intimate. The locker room that is intimate, that is personal, that is private, that is something that is for them and the like coaches and the team and the staff. And when she asked me to come in there, that meant the world to me. And when Enrico asked me to go in there and he said, I want you to not only come into my locker room, I want you to talk to my guys. And when a coach, like to me, one of the greatest honors of my life is Gabby saying, will you come in the locker room? And Enrico saying, will you speak to my guys? And so, I love you both for that. You know that. Jen Carlton, I love you and I appreciate you. And you just celebrated your favorite holiday, Halloween, so I hope it went well. But like, it's the relationships. It has always been the relationships. And I will always come to play, and I will always come to build a relationship. I will always come to make a new friend and open the door. If you don't want to do it, that's on you, but I will always be there to do it. I will always be there to help. And to anybody that gave me adversity, there was no malice, there was no hate, there was no anger. It was like, there was anger, there was frustration, but if they needed me, I was going to show up. And if we had to work together, then I'm still going to do what I need to do. You go where you need to go, I'll go where I need to go. But, that entire sitting on the bleachers, walking around that gym, shooting in that gym, playing in that gym, like messing around there. Like there were so many things in the old gym and in the new gym. And when Kate Hajmahalis, who's been on the show a bunch of times, when Haj and I were talking, I had no idea like that it moved her, or Amy Hand or Amanda Lass. Like I had no idea what it was doing, or Deron Dickerson, like that they were seeing it and they appreciate it. And Kate said that. She goes, you know, Hodge told me, she's like, you doing what you did, like when we looked over and we saw you there, like we wanted to win. Like that mattered to us that you were there for us. And she appreciated that. And those moments, like she took a picture last season, literally 2023-24, took a picture last season, and she brought her team to Marywood because she coaches Kings for women's basketball, and she brought the team to Marywood. They had an away game. She took a picture of the sideline, and she said, look, they're still keeping your baby alive. Like they're still living your dream here. They're still doing it. And the fact that like she cared enough to do that and even think of that in that moment, everyone that I've met through this, including you, like you gave me one of the greatest honors of my life when you asked me to come back, because it's for students. And I didn't even know that I could. But when you said, like, I want you to come back, I want you to do this, and I got to sit down again, I like Brendan, and I've told you this, but like it is genuinely one of the greatest honors of my life. It is one of the greatest feelings in my life. It is one of the greatest moments in my life. Like you asking me to come back and be a part of it, I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream out loud happy. I wanted to celebrate. I wanted to, you know, run up a mountain, jump off a building, parachute down with a big smile on my face. Like that moment for me was a moment in time that I never ever thought I would have back. I thought when I graduated, this is it. I have to let go of my baby, and I gotta let them grow on their own. I never ever thought that I was going to be able to do it again, and I did it more than once, you know, being there on the sideline with you doing the broadcast, and I appreciate that. It spoke to my heart. It spoke to everything that I was about. It means the world to me. So when I look at the people like Roseanne with the Disney program and what she saw in me in leadership, and Jerry's support of me, and Madonna Mama talking me through every problem that I had with anything and always being there, to you asking me to come back and be a part of the show, to Ernie and Mark saying like, are you coming back for reunion? Cause we're going to let you be on the air. Like all of those things mean something to me and they stick out. And so I just want you to know that it's not about the accolades and the awards and the money to me. It's about those moments where somebody does something out of the goodness of their heart. And you know it's for you. It's not for anybody else. It's something they want to do for you. And you see that. And when somebody's good to you and they do something nice and it's not meant for someone else. It's not, oh, this person canceled. It's okay. It's like, hey, I want you to be a part of this. Like, I want this to be yours. And when you did that and you asked me to come back, like that to me is one of the greatest gifts in my life. So that's in my trophy case in my mind and in my heart. And I just want to say thank you for that.
And obviously, you know, I was all for that. And of course, it was my honor to have you back. But, you know, I remember when Enrico brought it up, I almost didn't even say anything to Kim and Ernie. I was kind of just like, yeah, he's coming. Because at that point, I wasn't doing games with anybody. So I didn't have to worry about it. And I was just there.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, you know, Enrico brought it up. I'm like, yeah, like, let's have him. Like, I'll make sure it happens. I mean, at that point, I'm like, I pretty much had all the, you know, decisional capacity about what went on. So when Enrico brought that up and I was going to have you there, I'm like, I don't care what Ernie and Kim are saying. Like, you're coming. Like, if you want to be there, you're coming. So, you know, that was probably one of the most fun broadcasts we did.
Yeah.
I remember, I think you were sitting in traffic and you got there. I think you missed the start of the game. I think you might have gotten there like maybe early in the first quarter of the women's game. Something like that. And it was, you sat down and we were, you know, it was basically off and running. It was so much fun. And then when we got to have you back again and again, it was, you know, it was just cool to see, you know, just seeing you, you know, back with the broadcast and everything. And obviously, I mean, as I'm sure you know, the only real thing I changed, obviously, I changed the logo to the TV Marywood logo because I thought it was better to at the time. Now, obviously, this was a long time ago now. I wanted to put in our the TV logo and kind of associate it more with TV Marywood, which I think was a decent decision. But at the time for you, that was when you called it MU Courtside and everything, that was the right call, because it sounds like TV Marywood wasn't as much, I guess, as much of a big thing on campus as it is now.
Well, and what it was that was the news. So it was like, we can't, we got to call it its own thing because, TVM, it was the news. That was the one thing that they did. And that was the thing is I pushed MU Courtside with Joe and with the incredible people that became our crew, our consistent crew. We pushed for it to be, and it became. It was second to the news. The news was the only thing that they cared about there at the time. And we made MU Courtside the second show. I mean, I don't know what we did ratings-wise. I don't know how many people this and that, but we made it the second most important thing on campus that was coming on television. So
I think for us, it was number one. Right. I mean, at least by the time I was a senior, it was us. It was the news, which wasn't, I don't want to say wasn't really doing much.
They just put more into the news when I was there. They put they did with me too. The 100%. Staff put more. They made sure everybody was showing up. The teachers are there and everything's there. And then with Courtside, they're you're on your own. So, which I'm fine with because I got to make it what I wanted to make it.
100%. I mean, I remember there were nights where I'd go. It was I remember it was before a playoff game. I went there the night before the game at 5, 6 o'clock. I didn't leave till almost 10 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was working on the graphics. Because I knew full well no one else was going to do it.
Yeah.
The hardest part for me when, my senior year, when we got the Atlantic East Network package and all of that great stuff that we got as far as graphics go, getting starting lineups was the hard part. That was always the hardest part for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously there's, for the Marywood teams, it wasn't a big deal. I'd call Enrico. I'd, call at the time it was Jen. I'd call her and find out, a couple hours before, or I'd go get him from whoever was, I think Joe was the assistant for the women's team at the time, and reach out to them and get my lineups. But I would always struggle to get the away teams lineup.
Yeah.
And I'd find out, I'm like, hey, I'm doing the broadcast. I just need your starting lineup so I can make the graphic for it. And sometimes it was hard to get it out of them.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think the hardest part for me was getting the graphics done to the point where I knew where I liked them. Because with the graphic package that we had in the beginning, that was left from when you were there, and it looked like they had not changed at all when I got there from when you were there.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Well, because it's when I left, I was who's gonna take care of this? I worked to put that team together, and when the one girl that we had for audio, when she sat there, it was okay, I guess I'll do it, I'll give it a shot or whatever, and then she just seemed to like it. And then when we got this one camera guy and we got another camera guy, and they just seemed to like it. So if there was a week where they couldn't show up, if there's a game where they couldn't show up, we started to put together this staff. But I knew if you want this to be done, because I was we never put the score up. So then I'm creating the box to put the score up, and then I'm telling them I have to go do the game. So you have to literally manually change the score, bring it in, bring it out, change it again, bring it in, bring it out. Well, we're not going to do it all the time. Okay, well, can you do it enough? Can you not do it once every 40 minutes? I mean, I had
to constantly say what the score was and how much time was left my first 2 years.
I'm literally
because we didn't have a graphic for it.
Right. I'm literally telling you, when I was on the air, I was thinking in my head, I'm broadcasting like a broadcaster broadcasts, right? They give them a teleprompter. They got a statistician giving them stats. They got somebody giving them pronunciation. They got somebody bringing them the starting lineup. They got all this, like, there's a million people in the background making your job look easy. All you got to do is talk well. But in my world, it was like, who's directing today? Who's producing today? They'll tell me in my ear,
Yep.
oh yeah, this teacher didn't show up. Oh, they're not here in the back. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to turn it on. So I'm sitting here going like, okay, I got to make sure everything's right. And then I'm looking up at the camera. Who's doing our third camera today? Oh, I don't know. I guess he's not coming. So like we had to set things up in certain places. And a lot of times, like we would set up the cameras and they were stationary. These are the cameras. Like I remember I created
The two side cameras are almost always stationary.
Right. Like
I could probably count on. Give me a third hand. I could probably count on how many games that I had someone doing those two cameras in 4 years.
Like I remember creating a show it was called Community Outreach. And I created it and we did it in the TV room. And so on that set, and I had to set everything up and I didn't have the staff. So I was in the control room getting everything ready. I was hosting the show. I was setting up the camera angles. I was moving around everything, bringing the wall over, changing out stuff. I mean, when I created the sports show TSS, I had to, like, they gave me a desk. I went and bought paint and painted the desk to the color that I wanted it to be. I was told that there's no way to create a ticker. None of the teachers knew how to make a ticker like ESPN. I went in on a Saturday and I said, no, I'm doing it until it's done. 2 hours in there, 2 hours and some change. I made the ticker and I told my teacher, I was like, I made the ticker. No, you didn't. I was like, yes, I did. Watch the tape. So, I mean, like, I look back at all of that stuff. Like, when I was in the control room, I'm in the control room. I'm doing the camera. I'm doing that. Like, I was a one-man band 99.9% of the time. So, like, I fully understood if you want to get something done, like, you got to do it yourself. But that's one of the best things about Marywood is the fact that I could walk in there and I'm doing NCAA games. Mike Tirico's doing these games. Like, you got all these people are traveling around the country doing these games, and I'm doing these games. And I got a phone call within the last couple weeks about MU courtside. It was like, I know what you did back then. There's nobody better at it. I had a Division I team call me up and say, are you open to doing it for us? All these years later, Division I, fly you around the country and give you this whatever. A Division I team says to me, we're interested in you because of what you did then. So what I can tell people is you can treat smoke like it's there to block you and it's there to keep you from seeing, or you can treat it like a fog machine and make it a music video that you want to go back and watch. And everything about MU courtside, I mean, it is my first baby. It is my first kid. It is I talk about that to this day, 21 years later, and I love it. And when I can look at someone and go, you know, the show that I created, it's still there to help people 10 years later, 17 years later, 21 years later. I met Brendan through it. Brian Johnson, fantastic kid. Joe Forgione, fantastic kid. Like, I am so happy. I thought that I was doing it to, like, help me with my career and help me grow, and I was so passionate about it. And then when I see other people passionate about it, that makes me happy. Like, there's things that you did that I'm like, man, I wish I thought of that. Man, I wish I could have done that. You know, Brian was doing a great job, and Joe was telling me about it. Joe did a great, like, that makes me happy. That's the thing, is they tell you if you make something for yourself, that's all well and good, but you're going to be dead and gone someday. So what's your legacy? Did you create something that someone can pick up and make their own and be a part of, or did you make something for you and when you're gone, it's dead? And so the fact that Joe and Brian and you and, like, everyone that's done it and the people that are doing it now, like, that means the world to me. All I ask Marywood to do is let me be a part of the kid that I raised. But beyond that, it's like the fact that I fell in love with this thing and I got to make it, and it was my first baby, and then you're doing it, like, the fact that it made it all the way to you, that's what means something to me.
And even 4 years past me.
Right. But like that.
I mean, I'm out 4 years already.
I mean, 21 years. And when I went in, it was one of those, sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't. Like it didn't really seem like a priority. And God bless you. So to me,
Yeah.
it's
Thank
definitely,
God for the mute button.
yeah. But
Otherwise, y'all would have heard it.
but it's a beautiful thing. And, you know, like I said, I mean, I have so many, I could go back there today. There's things that I forget. Like I will literally sit here and go, where did I go yesterday? What did I do yesterday? Why wasn't I home till 11 yesterday? I can't remember. And I'm trying to figure it out. You tell me, hey, you know MU courtside, like what were your favorite moments? I go back to the smell of the gym, the look of the gym, the people on the floor, what it felt like. And I put that headset right back on in my brain and in my heart, and I'm there because I loved it. And I can never thank Marywood University enough for the education and the experience that I got. And Marywood, you know, I had to go out into the real world and I had to go do my thing. I applied for grad school, and Mary Beth Holmes wrote me a recommendation letter, and she said, I'm going to be honest with you, you would be wasting your money. She said, there is nothing else I can teach you here. You have done so much. You need to go out. Like, you need to go out into the world. Like, you have done so many things while you're here. You took advantage of your time here. I would be doing a disservice to you if I told you to wait. She's like, go out. Like, if you want to come here, you want to do it, whatever. But go out into the real world. And thank you, Mary Beth, for pushing me. The reality is I didn't want to leave Marywood because I didn't want to stop doing courtside. I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to stop, you know, helping to run that department.
My last broadcast was that hurt. That was hard.
I still have mine. I got mine.
I can't
on
even.
DVD.
I do too. I had a little 3 or 4 minute monologue that I did at the end, and you know, I still wish I could go back and do it again, but
Yeah.
you know, I love what I'm doing right now. You know, I'd still love to broadcast more. You know, if that opportunity ever presented itself, you know, I'd probably jump at it. You know, as long as it made sense for me. You know, but everything with that. It was the most fun 4 years of my life. I met some lifelong friends in the process, and you know, my decision to go there is the greatest decision I've ever made. You know, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But you know, all I know is, as we said before, you and I can go on forever and just talk, and it's almost 11 o'clock already.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I do. Like I said, I want to thank Jay Hamron because he was like 80% of the reason why I went to Marywood, because I knew he would take care of me, and I thank him for that. And I miss you still, buddy. And I hope you're okay. I hope you're up in heaven. I hope you're safe and sound. I hope you're happy, and I hope you're at peace by the grace of God. You know, Jay was the best, and Jay and June Ann, and speaking at, you know, doing a eulogy at Jay Hamron's services, that is still, that will always be one of the greatest honors of my life. And you know, Father Jim letting me do that, doing the Stations of the Cross at the old chapel. There's so many things at Marywood, and Marywood will always have a place in my heart. It will always have a place in my heart. And you know, I'm very grateful, and I have so many moments there, and lifelong friends. I mean, John Granquist is my graphic designer, and we moved in 2 doors down from each other in Madonna Hall my first year. And he's the reason why my logos look so nice, because he has a fantastic ability to do amazing things. And so, I mean, during COVID, I said, John, you know that I'm going to take a negative and turn it into a positive. I said, and I'm an advantageous person. Everybody's sitting at home. I want to come out of this thing with more professionalism. I want things to look better. And we did every logo, every single one. We created some for the first time. And I mean, he did the Do Diz with Dan logo. He did the Wake Up Call logo. He did the Dan Tortora Broadcast Media overall umbrella logo. He did the Superpowered Pop logo, the Comic Book Trails logo. and he gave me so many different designs. You know, John, thank you, John. And thank you to Mark Grenquist, who, again, stuck up for me in rooms I wasn't in. So, you know, there's so many things about Marywood that I love and that I miss. And, you know, I know there's a new communication arts building, and that's all well and good. I miss the old building. And I'm always.
I think the old building's now a almost like a park.
Yeah.
Between the architecture building, the new LC. What the heck was across from it? I can't remember what was across from it, but I remember because my freshman year was the first full year that building was in use.
Yeah.
So they were in the process of knocking the old one down my first 2 years, and they finally put out the little patio area with a couple. I don't even know. I don't know what the heck they called that area. You know, but I never got to see the inside of the old building.
Oh, I did.
And to this day, I kind of wish I did.
Yeah, that building was game changing. The library that was circular connected to that building, that would have been a perfect place to film some type of suspenseful horror murder movie, because that was so scary and I didn't know how to get out. But the digital media and communications building was great. So like I said, I want to thank Ernie. I want to thank Junan. I want to thank Dr. Mirabito. I want to thank Jay Hammerin and Mark Ruddy and Mary Beth Holmes. And so, you know, just a lot of appreciation and a lot of grace and a lot of learning. And, you know, I appreciate there is a lot of truth that when you reflect on your career, you thank everyone that made it hard and you thank everyone that tried to make it easier, because they all taught you something. I want to thank Brandon for that phone call that started my career. So, you know, if not for Brandon, if not for those moments, a conversation with Neil Prisco, like there's a lot of great things that came from this. So, you know, love it or hate it, the underdog's on top. So we'll take a step aside for a fast break. And when we come back, Murph and I will get into some things here, but reminiscing on 21 years and how it all got started at Marywood, ain't no problem with that at all. We'll be back right after this. God bless y'all. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Bryan and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Bryan and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business, had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees. And as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about, owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in 2007, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There's a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really change the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allowing customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servomation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water machines, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean to cup coffee machines. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. And in a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I can tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time and beyond here on our many channels that you can get. You can hang out with us live worldwide Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And like I said, and beyond that, by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. And once the shows hit the archives, you can go and find them by going to Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, as well as Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, Podchaser.com, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. That's all you got to do to find our show all around the world, and to have it at your fingertips, to be able to go through our library of, on Podbean alone, over 1,600 episodes. So make sure that you do that today. Subscribe, follow, and thank you for your support. And it is free to you, so make sure you do that. I had the opportunity to charge, and I decided not to. I want you to be able to get these shows and enjoy these shows. You have enough people asking for money from you and asking for more money and more money. I feel like, we should make this accessible. I'd rather you spend money with the wonderful businesses that I work with than have to pay to listen to one of the shows on one of these apps. So make sure you go there today and enjoy it on us. With that being said, Murph and I got a few things to talk about. We're going to get sports cards here in just a few minutes, but college football, and I'm going to bring this up here because there's going to be a new one coming up on Tuesday, but this is what the college football playoff looked like going into this week. Now, keep in mind, when we take a look, and Jerry, thank you for your support, and thank you for your love as always, and thank you for being my first fan outside of mom and dad. Jared, thank you for your love and your positivity over the years, being there from day zero and being my first supporter there right at Marywood, and I can't thank you enough for that support and for showing up this weekend to celebrate 21 years with me and broadcasting with your wonderful wife, Miss Amanda. So God bless to you, and God bless you on everything in your journey. I'm always by your side as well. So when we look at week 12 and how things shook out here, Oregon barely beats Wisconsin on the road. Wisconsin unranked. Oregon wins 16-13. Ohio State beats unranked Northwestern on the road 31-7. Texas defeats Arkansas 20-10. Texas, number 3 rank, and Arkansas unranked. Number 4 ranked Penn State beats Purdue, who is still yet to win a game in the Big Ten, 49-10. Penn State wins that game. BYU, who is ranked 6, loses to Kansas. And I asked if Kansas could play a spoiler. I said that going into this week, 17-13. They beat BYU. Tennessee and Georgia. Georgia beats Tennessee and keeps their hopes alive. They win 31-17. They're 12, and Tennessee, the road team, was ranked 7th coming in. Notre Dame beats an unranked Virginia at home. Notre Dame 35-14. They are ranked 8th. Alabama, who is ranked 10th, defeated Mercer 52-7. Almost the exact same score of Jacksonville losing to another NFL team. We look at Boise State. They defeated San Jose State. Boise State 13, 42-21 over the unranked San Jose. SMU wins another game. SMU is ranked 14th, should be in the college football playoff in my opinion. They beat Boston College at home 38-28. Texas A&M, who's ranked 15th, defeated New Mexico State 38-3. That was an unranked team. So Kansas State lost another game. Kansas State has been ranked 3 times when they've lost to unranked teams, and they're still around. So Lord knows why. Don't understand it. Arizona State won. Maybe that should push up SMU again. I don't know. Colorado defeated an unranked Utah 49-24. Colorado's ranked 17th. Washington State, who is ranked, they lost their game to New Mexico. Stanford beat a ranked Louisville. Clemson was able to hold on and beat Pittsburgh 24-10 to keep their hopes alive as a 20th ranked team. South Carolina defeated Missouri 21-23, ranked 34-30. And Florida defeated LSU. Florida maybe could be pushing for people wanting to fire Brian Kelly at LSU. I said, if Brian Kelly loses this game, the clamoring in the SEC is always loud, and coaches have about 3 years when they come in. Losing to this Florida team, not good for Brian Kelly. Hopefully he'll figure that out. Tulane took down Navy 35-0, and they're ranked 25th in the country. So that is going through the top 25, because I want you to look at this board, and I want you to say to me, what are your thoughts? Does Oregon still, they're undefeated, but barely beating Wisconsin on the road, Murph. Should they still be number one when the new poll comes out for the college football playoff?
Well, who else are you going to put number one? I mean, let's be honest.
Ohio State, who almost beat Oregon, yeah. But I mean, it should be Oregon. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not putting Ohio State there. I'm not putting Texas there. I'm not putting Penn State there. The only other one that's should even remotely be considered is Indiana. And even then, I'm not putting them
And
up
they
there.
didn't play this week.
Exactly.
So
I mean, if you look at it for me, Oregon's still going to be number one. Obviously BYU dropped in the AP poll. They dropped. I think the AP put them down to 12. I thought I saw. Let me see. Yeah, the AP knocked them down to 14. Actually, wow. I mean, that is a pretty bad loss. But yeah, I mean, Miami had is bye week is coming off of their first loss of the year last week against Georgia Tech. So I don't really see them doing anything of note anytime soon here. Georgia beating Tennessee was a big win. There's no one else that it should even remotely come close to being ranked number one other than Oregon. They were unanimous number one in the AP poll, not surprisingly. So, I mean, I could see Indiana getting moved up. I think it is also quite ironic that we've got 4 out of the 5 teams in the top 5 being in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Not ironic to those that know that the Big Ten's pool is already taken care of.
Well, you got to give Indiana credit. Indiana's not
I'm going
one
to
of
give
those teams
Indiana
you would
credit.
normally expect
I'm
to
give
be
in-
there,
okay,
and
I'm
they're
gonna give
dominating
Indiana
this year.
I will give Indiana credit, but I will also make a note, just like I would say about Miami, who do they play that's ranked? Now, they have some tougher games coming. I guess they got to play Ohio State. But if Ohio State loses to Indiana and has 2 losses, they'll still keep Ohio State in the top 10 because they'll be like, well, it's a quality loss. Nobody else gets that but the Big Ten and the SEC. Difference between the two, SEC backs it up 90% of the time. The Big Ten backs it up like 10% of the time. But this is what I would do, okay? This is me right here. I'm going to scratch this out here, and I'm going to put Texas as number 2 is what I would do. I understand the Penn State thing, but Indiana's undefeated. So I would
put Indiana above Penn State. I'm with you on that.
I would have Oregon 1, Texas 2, because those are the 2 best teams in the country. I would have Indiana. I could put Indiana 3. Then I would push everybody else down. BYU is obviously not going to be here with the 3rd college football playoff thing coming out. Tennessee's not going to be here because they lost to Florida, so they're going to drop substantially. For the mother of the good, the good Lord baby Jesus, SMU, because look you got a loss by BYU, you got a loss by Tennessee, you got Miami who didn't play well against Georgia Tech and they lost that game, right? So you got all this going on. So you put Indiana up. Alabama, they're going to keep moving them up because it's Alabama. But here's the thing. Georgia will move up. They'll be in the top 10 somewhere. SMU needs to be in the college football playoff right now. They need to be above Miami, and they need to be above a bunch of these other teams. They should be above BYU, above Tennessee right now, because Tennessee just lost to an unranked team. They should be above BYU, Tennessee, Miami, and arguably, because they don't have any losses, they should be above Alabama.
Tennessee just lost to Georgia. LSU lost to Florida.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Okay, right. Tennessee.
I knew what you were saying. I just
right.
When you said it again, I was like, okay, let me just make sure.
No, you're good. So Tennessee losing that game to Georgia. So Georgia's going to move up. But here's the thing. Indiana plays a bunch of unranks, and they play a bad Minnesota or Michigan team this year, and they're in the top 5. SMU's at 14. So SMU needs to be in the top 10. Georgia's going to be in the top 10. Notre Dame, for whatever stupid reason, is where they are right now. If anybody else lost to Northern Illinois, if there was an ACC team that lost to Northern Illinois, that would stick with them the whole season. Everybody forgot it happened in the College Football Playoff Committee to Notre Dame. But the reality is, if you're going to put Indiana as high as you put them, then SMU needs to go up. Georgia will go up. Alabama will go up. But I would put Georgia over Alabama. So if we're going to figure out the rest of this top 10, I would say they may put Georgia at like 7. SMU needs to, at worst, be at 10. We all know Alabama's going to move to like 8 or 9, and then they got to figure out some of these other pieces. But yeah, I mean, Texas A&M won, so they might move up. Kansas State had no business being in this thing in the first place. They have now lost, again, 3 times when they're ranked in the top 20, so they need to be out of it. And for the good Lord, you took Army. Oh my gosh, you took Army from 25 to 24? No, you didn't. Well, Army should now be in the top 20 somewhere. Army, with all these teams that have lost, they should be above the top 20 because they're also undefeated. And, Boise State has a place in this. In a perfect world where it would make sense when it comes to factual evidence and not just personal bias, BYU, SMU, and Army should all be in the college football playoff instead of having 5 teams in the Big Ten. Those are my thoughts.
I mean, we'll see. It's one of those things that, like we said, the Big Ten has been much better this year because the teams that have come into the conference are better opponents. So, a team like Washington, not the typical bottom of the Big Ten type team that, Ohio State's going to blow out.
Yeah.
Now, did Penn State blow them out in the whiteout? Yeah. But you know what? You want to know why? It's because it was the whiteout. Can I just get something off my chest? Big noon kickoff for the Big Ten sucks. Penn State, Ohio State in Happy Valley should have been the whiteout.
Agreed.
The fact that it was not says all we need to know about Fox and college football. The noon slot should not be the best game of the week.
No, the noon.
The best game of the week
usually
needs to
when
be
you
at
stay.
7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN or on ABC or wherever, because it's the best game of the week. Wherever College Game Day is, that's the game that needs to be on at 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
The only exception I make to that is the 3:30 slot that the SEC will typically play in. LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida. The 3:30. That's always been the case. The 3:30 slot is reserved for the SEC. We all know that. However, big noon kickoff has been one of the worst things for college football. Fox, come at me all you want. It's horrible. Nobody likes it. Well, our viewership is great for big noon kickoff. Yeah, because it's the best game.
Yeah. Because noon is
Doesn't
usually
mean people
reserved.
are going to stop watching the best game.
No, noon is usually reserved. And take this as someone who knows. Syracuse, when they have been awful, they had 8 out of their 12 games were at noon. And that was like the ACC going, if you want to be on some type of television, we don't want to put you on TV, but we will put you on at the earliest possible time so that drunk people can only see the game through half of their eyelids. And so, like, that's kind of why they put them on at noon. I have become accustomed to the fact, if you are on noon, if they could have put Syracuse on at 10 a.m. a few years ago, they would have done that. So, like that, and I love my hometown. I'm just being real. Now, again, being impartial, okay? I love Syracuse. I want them to win every single game. But as an impartial broadcaster, that team was they were like a Saturday morning cartoon. I'd rather watch the Ninja Turtles and X-Men than watch this game. And so noon was like, let's get them in, let's get them out so that we can go to our good games. And then I see this big noon thing, and I'm like, wait a second, Syracuse is playing at noon, and Penn State's playing at noon? But there's so much fanfare around Penn State right now. So
if you want to put Penn State against Eastern Illinois, whatever random
Notre Dame and Northern Illinois, that's a nooner.
Whatever random FCS team that they're playing.
Yeah.
You want to put them at noon? Fine. Florida plays plenty of games at noon. When Florida plays, I don't know, Vanderbilt, maybe not the case this year, but in general, when Florida plays Vanderbilt, that game should be at noon. When Florida plays Georgia, yeah, That's the 3:30 spot. Notre Dame, all of their best games are at night. They don't have to deal with big noon kickoff because they have a contract with NBC. Every big game that they play is at night. Every single one.
Yeah.
So when you look at the schedule makers and the networks that do these games, and you see them consistently putting the best game on at noon, why? You need to create the suspense all day long. I can promise you, if you watch that Penn State Ohio State game, if that game is played at night at Beaver Stadium for the whiteout, Penn State wins big. The whiteout at Penn State is arguably the hardest place to play in all of college football. Realistically, the 3 toughest environments to play in are all in the Big Ten. Beaver Stadium on the whiteout, the Horseshoe at Ohio State, and the Big House. I don't think anybody would argue with that statement. But when you play Penn State in the whiteout, it is so hard to go in and win that game. It's been done, but it's hard to win that game. You just took away a major advantage for Penn State. They don't get to play the whiteout against a good team. They get to play Washington, who they destroyed because they were an inferior opponent. I was at my buddy Jake's house, his apartment, watching we went to watch the Penn State game.
Yeah.
And he kept mentioning that we should not even be watching this game right now. We shouldn't be watching this game for another 6 hours. And I'm like, you're right. Because it should have been the whiteout. When you play big games like this, they should be at night. What happens in week 0? Who did LSU play? Who did they lose to? Week 0?
LSU. There was 5. Well, let me think here. There was only 5.
No, lost to Texas.
FSU played.
They played Georgia Tech and Ireland. I remember that.
Yeah.
Where's LSU? I don't remember.
LSU. Well, week 0. Well, hold on. It's considered. Well, on this thing, it's considered week 1. This makes no sense. So, anyways, but week 1.
USC. So they play USC in Vegas in prime time.
Yeah.
As it should be. When they play UCLA, South Alabama, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, you want to put them during the day at noon? Go for it. The Florida LSU game was at 3:30. That's the prime spot for the SEC. That's quote unquote prime time for them. No other conference really has a 3 o'clock prime time slot. They don't. But when the Big Ten,
well, the ACC gets
its
3:30.
best game at noon. When do they play the college football playoff games? At night. When are the best games in any other sport? At night.
I think they should
in
play
prime time.
They should play if Penn State and Ohio State make it to the college football playoff, they should play their game at noon.
Oh my god.
They should play it at noon.
Well, the problem is they're going to. I don't think they're going to play each other, but they're both going to most likely end up in the college football playoff. Honestly, I hope they play each other, and I hope Penn State beats the crap out of them. But that game will be at night.
I want to make mention. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on night games. I want to make mention of this. Notre Dame, the alleged money that Notre Dame had to pay Northern Illinois for coming into South Bend and beating them, $1.4 million.
It's a $1.4 million. Just for beating us.
Yeah, I just want to let that be known because I remember when Scott Schaefer got fired at Syracuse and he became the D coordinator at Middle Tennessee, and he came back the next year. He came into the Dome, and Middle Tennessee got paid $900,000, and Schaefer's defense harassed Syracuse, and they won. And And I was like, man, that's got to feel good. I said, if I'm Scott right now, I put the check in his hand, I'd be like smelling it on the way out the door.
And can I just say this? When I was up there with you on Saturday, we were watching the end of the Syracuse and God, who they play in basketball?
Youngstown State.
Youngstown State. Thank you.
No Syracuse fan will forget it because they will reflect on that game and they'll be like, that's why we suck. That's why we lost to Duke by 30. It's Youngstown. Like, people, that Youngstown game, I'm telling you right now, Murph, I know the fans.
They can't make free throws, man.
They don't. That's just a thing. They just don't make free division. And I sit here and I said to my buddy James, who I played basketball with growing up, I'm like, Jay, if we didn't make free throws, we had to run. So I don't know, like, this is what I would do if I'm Adrian. Every missed free throw, one suicide. Because they're going to miss 92 of them. So there's going to be 92 suicides.
Maybe not a suicide, but at least an up-down.
No, a suicide. This team needs to run a suicide. No up-downs. Suicide. Because that would make you, like, if I'm coaching, Adrian, let me coach one practice. Okay? Suicide, for those of you that don't know, end line, free throw. End line, half court. End line, other free throw. End line, other end line, run it back. That's what we had to do when I missed free throws in high school. In high school, if we missed free throws, somebody would go to the line at practice. They said, he makes them both. Y'all get to go home. He misses one of these shots, suicide. He misses both, 2 suicides. This is how we run life. This is what you're a Division I athlete. You're a Division I athlete. There was a time.
It's the same with the NBA guys that can't make free throws. Remember Shaq?
Yeah, but
Shaq was an awful free throw
this
shooter.
This is the thing, though. Like, back in
and
the
he was
day,
always at the line.
When you were 7 feet, though, back in the day when you were 7 foot tall and you were a big ogre, like when you were out there doing like Shaq always sounds like a baby falling, like a grown adult baby that's about to fall asleep. I'm so happy to be here right now. I feel like I'm about to.
I'm so tired, and I'm gonna just go up to the line and miss 3 free throws.
Charles, say one more thing to me. I'm gonna beat you in your head. Yeah, like I absolutely love it, but I love doing Chuck too. Shaq just a big dumb baby. I love seeing them together. But the reality is, back in the day, if you were 7 foot anything, you're supposed to suck at free throws. You're supposed to be like at best 50-something%, and that's it. Now they can shoot them because, like, now that overseas game and all these guys are 7'9", taking threes and, giving you the okie doke when they're going down the floor. But the reality is, a center's supposed to be a 50% free throw shooter. Syracuse has had history of being a 57% as a team free throw shooting team. The game against Lemoyne, over if they make free throws. The game against Colgate, over if they make free throws. The game against Youngstown State, over if they make free throws. The thing is free throws. That's what it comes down to. And years ago, Boeheim talked about it. He said, you guys can ask me any questions you want to ask me, and you could say whatever you want to say, but we missed free throws. We missed this many. We lost by this many. And I remember sitting there going,
yep.
Him and I are on the same wavelength. Like, I got nothing to ask him because it's right in front of your face. You miss free throws. That's where you're sitting at. That's why this team is struggling. So that's all I can say about Syracuse.
You missed this many free throws? That's right. How many suicides you're running.
I remember I interviewed Dwight Howard, and the media would just cater to him, and Dwight would take his time, and all the guys would be dressed, and they'd be out of the locker room, and Dwight's got everybody around him, but he's pretending like nobody's there because he's milking it, and he's waiting, and he's waiting. Then he puts his song on. All right, guys, I'm ready. And we sit down with him, and everyone's like, hey, man, they lost by, now keep in mind, they lost by 9, and he missed 10 free throws. Or they lost by 10 and he missed 10 free throws. And so I'm thinking that in my head, thinking it the whole time, like, if he had made his free throws, this is a game. And they're like, hey, in the second quarter, you had a tomahawk dunk. How did it feel? Hey, you remember in the second half when you had that, you blocked that shot? Man, you jump really high. I was like, Dwight, you missed 10 free throws. The team lost by 10. Any thoughts on that? He looked at all the rest of the media like this kid doesn't know. Like, this young kid obviously don't know how we do it here. And he laughed. You're really going to ask me that question? I said, yeah. Yeah. I'd like to know. Are you going to get better at making free throws, or what are we doing here? Like, free throws matter. I put that hashtag up pretty much every single year, well before everybody else put up all this like political blank matters. But like I used to put up free throws matter all the time. And the reality of it all is Syracuse is not a good free throw shooting team. I don't know how to fix it other than making them run suicides. There's two things that I would do to the Syracuse basketball team. And guys, please understand, I'm going to preface this by telling you I care about you all deeply. I would do this to any team. Two things I'm doing if you miss free throws in practice. I'm either making you run a suicide for every free throw you miss, or when you miss a free throw, I am taking a giant bucket of ice water and throwing it at your face. Those are the only two things that are happening. So that'll make you stop being extremely cold or having to run until you throw up. I mean, back in the day, old school coaches, you missed a free throw, they probably had one of those Indiana Jones whips and they just lashed you, just bang, just hit you once. You know, I
think they need to do though.
I think back in the day, Bobby Knight probably threw a chair at you. You know, back in the day where you could, where Bobby Knight, could throw. But all I'm saying is, I can't go to jail in today's America if I make you run suicides or I throw cold water on you, because to me, those aren't bad things. But back in the day, if you missed, could you imagine in your life, like Coach K at the beginning of his Duke career, and you missed 9 free throws in practice? He's probably saying things to you.
Oh, he'd have been pissed.
He's peering into your soul. Like, I mean, nowadays, somebody misses a free throw and it's like, oh, tell me your emotions about it. Do you feel okay that you missed it? How should I as a coach approach you because your feelings are mine? No, you missed a free throw in practice. I care about your feelings. But when you cost me almost 3, they're 3-0, but this is the ugliest, biggest lie of a 3-0 that I have seen in maybe Syracuse basketball history that I know of. This 3-0 very easily is 1-2 or 0-3. Lemoyne is in their second year in transition from D2 to D1, and they gave them a hell of a game. And if they had gotten a shot off, this game could have been tied, could have been overtime in that game. Colgate fell.
Can you imagine for a second if Lemoyne had beaten Syracuse?
They've never done it in a
you
game
probably
that's counted.
You probably would have had that. Probably was the most conflicted you would have ever. I'm sure you've ever been in a game. Now it sounds like they've played each other before. I don't know for sure off the top of my head.
They played each other in games that count. There has been D2 to D1 games that count. There was I think there was 8. Lemoyne is 0-8. Lemoyne beat them in an exhibition game, the only time they've ever beaten them, and then Syracuse refused to play them for years in an exhibition game. But playing them in this game that counted, this was a 86-82. Like, Lemoyne led the majority of the first half. They led at portions of the second half. They commanded the first half. They were up by 5 at halftime. And I'm going to tell people the truth. Like, I went there with a green sweater on, and I had my Lemoyne book bag. Like, I mean, I love you both, but, you know, Lemoyne and I have created something within my business that is very special to me. And I've told people, Lemoyne comes to play. If you think I'm lying, I mean, the NEC figured that out last year. The women's team played in the NEC championship game last year. The women's team went 14-2 in their first season in an NEC, in a Division I conference when they were in the NEC. Lemoyne men's team beat FDU, the same team that had beaten Purdue, a number 1 seed, against 16 seeded FDU. That FDU team, they didn't have the same head coach, but the coach that became the head coach, the assistant, he was from last year's team. There were some players on that team from the season before, so it's not like they beat a totally new team. They beat an FDU team commandingly and knocked them out of contention. And then they were a stone's throw away of playing in the NEC championship for the men's side. So you almost had in year 1 in D1 for men and women's basketball at Lemoyne, one played for a championship, the other one almost played for a championship. Which
imagine they both win the championship, right, and neither one of them could go to the NCAA tournament.
Which would have pushed the NCAA again to change this stupid arbitrary rule. So it doesn't make any sense outside of the NCAA saying, well, we're going to give you a 4-year thing because we want to see, in my mind, what's the reason? Like, you have
why?
You have to pay to go into the NCAA. You have to pay them to do it. It's not cheap. So maybe their mentality is, we're going to do a 4-year to make sure you can afford it. We're not going to let you play in our championships, because what if you play in our championship for 2 years and then you can't afford it and you go back down to D2. Now we gave you all this opportunity that you don't deserve.
They should be able to afford it though, because they will have made money from winning the conference championship
right,
twice.
But that's the only thing that makes sense to me is it's like you take them out of the NCAA tournament, you take them out of the ability to make money while you're asking them for money. If you're good enough to make it, you should get in. If Notre Dame can have an independent football team and lose to Northern Illinois and be in the top 8 in the freaking country of 134 schools, then you can let in Lemoyne when they play, if they win a championship game in whatever sport that they play in, because it's just stupid. Notre Dame can literally play nobody and go 12-0, and they're like, well, they're a top 5 team. No, they're not. They're not a top 5 team. If Syracuse lost to Northern Illinois, they would not be ranked in the top 25 for the rest of the year. Because no matter what anybody said, Syracuse beat 2 top 25 teams. They didn't put them in the top 25. They almost beat it. Like, they were literally, I was like, if they beat 3 in a row, then are they going to get in? Then they lose to Pittsburgh and they're like, see? And you got Notre Dame in the top 8 losing to Northern Illinois. You got Ohio State as better than Texas, better than Georgia, better than Alabama, because they almost beat Oregon. Like, sometimes people just have to say things out loud, realize how stupid they sound, and maybe like do the right thing. I want to see Oregon and Texas play for the national championship in football right now. That's what I would like to see.
I want Boise State to go to play for the championship right now.
But to me, yes, I would like to see Boise State. I would like to see.
Give me a Boise State BYU national championship game.
Like,
how awesome would that be?
I think that Boise State's got a shot. I think that SMU has a shot.
Anybody's going to have a shot. Realistically, that's the beauty of the 12-team
Army
playoff.
has a shot. If Army beats Notre Dame,
anybody's got a shot.
If Army beats Notre Dame College Football Playoff Committee, and you got Army at 24, and you got Notre Dame at 8, and wherever they end up tomorrow.
If Army beats Notre Dame, they automatically need to be in the top 12.
If Army beats Notre Dame, they need to be in the top 10. They're undefeated. They're
100%. They should be in the playoff because their win would be over a top 10 Notre Dame team. We argued all this time about how, we weren't fan, you were, but I wasn't like a huge fan of like UCF or Cincinnati getting in because they didn't play anybody. Army will have beaten Notre Dame. That's a quality win. Yeah. That would have earned them a place in the playoff. Jerry. And in that case, we will have, I firmly believe this, 2 group of 5 teams in the playoff. Boise State and Army. And if they keep Boise State out for that, there's something wrong with the College Football Playoff Committee if they do that. Because Boise State deserves to be there.
Yeah.
Their only loss is BYU.
If you want to make this the Big Ten SEC championship, then call it that. If you want to make it a college football playoff, then make it a college football playoff. And with all due respect, if you want to make it a college football playoff, there's 9 conferences that can represent right now, and you're going to tell 4 of those 9, almost half of the country, that they're not going to be able to compete because you got to jerk off the Big Ten. And I would like to use a different terminology, but, you're kind of, obviously they got a hard on for they got a hard on for the Big Ten. The Big Ten does not prove it. The SEC proves it. The SEC, Florida just beat LSU. Okay, people have Florida dead. They just beat LSU. Look at South Carolina this year. Look at how high they had Missouri, and look at what happened in Missouri. Kentucky gets ranked, and they're unranked. They're still beating people. Kentucky played Georgia to a baseball game, 13-12.
Florida almost beat Georgia.
Right. Look at how Georgia.
This is the most competitive the SEC has been.
Right, but that's the thing.
The whole conference.
Look at Ole Miss and what they did to Georgia on the road.
Look at Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt never won in Auburn. Won at Auburn. Beat Alabama. And who's the head coach of Vanderbilt? Former linebackers coach of Syracuse under Scott Schaefer, Clark Lee. What's up? So, there's so much to be said about the teams that are actually proving themselves. And if we want to play a game, if we want to play if we want to be real about life, then you let the teams in that have actually done the work.
Yeah.
You don't let...
Vanderbilt might win 9 games this year.
If I see 5 Big Ten teams in, y'all can kiss it.
You're going to.
Y'all can kiss it.
You're going to.
You can kiss it.
I'm going to tell you right now, this is what I firmly believe the playoff
and you know what?
is going to be.
4 out of 5 are going to lose. I hope you make them all play each other. I really do. Because
this is what I firmly believe the playoff is going to be. Oregon will be there, obviously. Texas will be there, obviously. Those will be the two conference champions. I think you're going to have well, now that BYU lost, I don't know what the heck's going to happen with the Big 12, but I'm going to still say BYU. So let's say that's the 3. And then your fourth one, let's look ACC or probably
SMU.
It's either going to be Miami or SMU. Let's just say it's SMU.
Well, right now,
I don't know if you want to write this down again.
Right now,
like what
Clemson,
we were doing before.
SMU and Clemson are playing for the championship right now. Miami's not even playing for it.
Yeah, and if SMU wins, they're automatically in. And I think SMU can beat Clemson.
SMU
I mean, Clemson's
literally
a good
has,
team, but I think SMU could beat Clemson.
They literally have to go through all of this and win the ACC championship just for this committee to mention them. When the ranking
BYU.
comes out tomorrow, SMU needs to be in the top 12. I don't care what anybody says about it that is not factual evidence. SMU.
Well, Tennessee's going to drop, so they're going to be ahead of Tennessee.
They've done the work. They have proven themselves. There's three teams that lost ahead of them. They should be in there. BYU.
Tennessee's going to drop out of the top 12. Let's see. Well, Miami's not going to move. BYU will drop below them. There's at least 2 teams that are going to drop below them, which should put them at 12 at worst. Tennessee should drop out. Well, they might make the excuse that Tennessee lost to Georgia and Georgia's a good team, and I don't know.
They'll make an
Worst
excuse
case,
for
they're
everybody.
13. They're at least going to move up a little bit.
Yeah, they need to.
That's worst case.
They need to be
But
higher.
let's just say that for argument's sake,
They need to be above Miami because they're above Miami in the ACC. They're literally above
They're not
Miami
gonna-
in the
they're
ACC.
not gonna be, though.
And Miami
You know
was
they're not gonna be.
4, and they had SMU at 13. The College Football Playoff Committee thinks that Miami is better than SMU when the ACC is showing you that SMU is better than Miami by actual football. And Miami, what did I say? I said Miami could very much be a poser because they didn't play anybody this year. Just like the Big Ten, they don't play anybody. So with a lot of those, like Ohio State, they played Oregon, they lost. If they beat Oregon, then they can argue their way into the top 5. They're not in the top 2, but to be 2 right now, every year Ohio State's 2. Look at it. Look at the last 5 years. Every year they make it in the top 2. Every year in the top 2. So that's
they play Indiana this week.
right. And if Indiana beats them,
Indiana wins. Indiana is now number 2.
if Indiana wins, then they're going to move Indiana up. They're going to move Penn State up. They're going to move Ohio State to 5. They're going to keep them all in the top 5. They're just going to rotate
No.
them.
I'm going to tell you right now, if Indiana wins, Notre Dame's going to go into the top 5 if they beat Army. But if Notre Dame loses to Army, then Alabama might be 5. This is the amount of 2-loss teams that there's going to be a lot of 2-loss teams that make the playoff.
Right, because it's a harder season this season, but things need to change because they're just ugly. Like, I respect Indiana for what they've done. I respect Oregon for what they've done. I respect seeing
I'm still
Army.
giving Penn State respect because I think Penn State and Ohio State are similar teams.
There's only 3 undefeated teams in America right now.
Yeah.
Army, Oregon, and Indiana. Oregon and Indiana are in the top 5. And Army, they're like, just be happy that you got invited to the party. They're 18. They're 18 in the AP. They're 17 in the coaches poll. What the hell does this
How
team
did
have
they
to
go
do?
down in the AP poll?
What the hell does this team have to do? In the
Because they didn't play.
It's like, yeah, they went down 2 in the AP.
Because they didn't play.
To let in a 2-loss team, a 2-loss team, a 2-loss team. Like, they got to let all these 2-loss teams. Army is only 1 spot above South Carolina, who's lost 3 games this year. Like, give me a friggin' break. The coaches poll were like, let's make them 17. So they're behind a 2-loss Texas A&M, a 2-loss Clemson, a 2-loss Ole Miss, a 2-loss Georgia, a 2-loss Alabama, a 2-loss Tennessee. Because, well, Army plays in the American Athletic and we can't give them a blah, blah, blah. If they were independent still, they wouldn't give them anything. They'd be like, well, they're independent. They don't play in a country. Do you realize that?
They would if they beat Notre Dame.
But what do they say about the American? They say the American's conference isn't good enough, and that's why you can't get ranked high because your conference games aren't good enough. Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference. So if
Notre Dame's games are good enough.
But they
play decent teams.
But they're not. Their games are better now. The Texas A&M, that was a good game this year. Congratulations to them. But besides the Texas A&M win, what is wowing me about Notre Dame's season this season? What is it about?
Louisville?
Louisville,
Florida State would have
Louisville
been a
was
good
ranked
game
high.
if they were actually
Would have
good,
been
like
a
we
good game,
expected
but
them to
it's
be.
not. Let's look at Brass.
But that's not Notre Dame's fault.
no, but I'm
Florida State
it's not their fault. It's the
should've
college football
been
playoffs fault.
in the college football playoff last year. You would have circled that game on the calendar as being, hey, like this is going to be a really big game with college football playoff implications.
Not without Jordan
You wouldn't
Travis.
expect it. You couldn't expect Florida State to be 1-9.
Not 1-9, but without Jordan Travis, I told people I did not believe the majority of the ACC media picked Florida State to win, and I said I can't because I don't trust DJ Uiagalelei, and I'm going to pick Clemson, and now Clemson's in the top 2. Let's look at Notre Dame, and no, it's not their fault who they schedule ahead of time, but it is the committee's fault for saying that this is a good schedule. Okay,
Yeah.
They beat Texas A&M on the road. Great, that's a good win. Fine. So you lost to Northern Illinois, who is at best ranked 71, 60, 80. Who the hell knows where they were ranked there out of 130?
What are they now?
They might have been 100. So
What's their
and
record?
by the way,
now,
Northern
anyway?
Illinois is not good in the MAC right now. They're not even pulling it off. It's not like they lost to Northern Illinois and then Northern Illinois went undefeated. So you look at Northern Illinois, that's the second game of the season. That's terrible. You beat Purdue, who hasn't won a game in the Big Ten this year. You beat Miami of Ohio, who no one's paying attention to. You beat Louisville, who has underperformed this year. You beat Stanford, who is unranked. You beat Georgia Tech, who got ranked and then fell out of the rankings. You beat Navy, who hasn't had a good... Since they lost that game, they've struggled. You beat a
Navy
terrible
looked
Florida
awful
State
in that
team,
game, but
and
yeah.
you beat a Virginia team that's okay. The best wins, if you look at Notre Dame's schedule right now at 9-1, they have one quality win. They have one quality win.
I would argue two with Louisville, but
you can say Louisville, but Louisville's been up and down. Texas,
but if they win their last 2 games and they beat Army and USC, like I know USC's having a down year, but USC is still a decent win.
But they're looking at USC saying they might want to get rid of Lincoln Riley after this year. So
I'll take him.
You know,
you can come to the Jets, Lincoln.
So basically,
we're more than happy to take you. We will welcome you with open arms.
This is how I look at it. Notre Dame beats Army. They're in the top 5. Army beats Notre Dame. They're maybe 18. That's
no,
how,
if
that's
Army,
how stupid these polls
I'm gonna tell you right now, if Army wins this game, the Army's gonna get a lot of credit for beating Notre Dame because you know how much the committee loves Notre Dame.
Yeah, but that's
If
the thing
Army
is they
beats them and beats
argue
them
Notre
handily-
Dame's losses more than they argue the wins over Notre Dame.
I know.
Remember
But
what happened to
if Army
Cincinnati?
beats Notre Dame handily. I mean, look at Army though. Army has played. I mean, you could argue Army hasn't really played anybody either, but if they get the win over Notre Dame, then they play UTSA. They will play in the American Championship game, and then they got to play Navy.
They're playing in a conference championship game for the first year that they've ever been in the American Athletic Conference. And you look at it and you say,
I was hoping that it would be Army Navy in the championship
But
because
you
then
also-
they'd have to play back to back.
and what do they say?
It still could be.
What do they say about the Big Ten, though? Well, yeah, they're a bunch of unranked teams, but they beat them handily. Okay, so what did Army do? Army beat Lehigh 42-7, FAU 24-7, Rice 37-14, Temple 42-14.
But
Tulsa
regardless,
49-7, UAB 44-10, East Carolina 45-28, Air Force 20-3, closest game North Texas 14-3. So when they say, well, yeah, the Big Ten's beating unranked teams, but they're beating them handily. If Army was a Big Ten team, they would look at the schedule and have them in the top 4.
I mean, I guess you can argue they're quote unquote better unranked teams, but at the same time, like what I'm interested to see, obviously, I don't. Tulane's going to have to lose twice, and I think Navy would have to beat them in the process in order. I don't actually. Did they play each other?
No, they're going to
play Tulane.
No, Tulane played Navy. Yes, they didn't play. Army will play Tulane in the American Athletic Championship. That's already decided.
Tulane just beat. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
So
they're playing
just
Notre
say
Dame,
Army,
UTSA, and then they play Navy. And by the way, if they go undefeated, they will have more wins than anyone else in the nation because they play the Army Navy game.
Now, here's what I want to know. Here's an interesting scenario. So Selection Sunday happens before the Army Navy game.
Yeah.
Do you make them play that game if they are in the playoff?
The Army-Navy game is played for way more than football. There's no way in hell that
100%. But I'm willing to bet the Army doesn't play anybody.
They would play that game on the aircraft carrier. No, they're going to play people. They're absolutely going to play people. That game, I know both of those coaches.
If you got
they're playing. They're playing that game.
But what happens? What would happen if Army loses that game? You can't change the rankings because the rankings are what they are.
Right.
What do you do if they lose?
You have to deal with it, just like you let Notre Dame and Ohio State play East Bumbletucky, and you tell them that they're one of the best teams in the country. So, I mean,
no. The main reason I'm saying that though is more so to do with the college football playoff implications.
You let them stay.
Like it doesn't really change anything. But so when's the first week of the playoff? Is it the week of is it the 21st?
The first college football playoff game let me see here. I want to make sure that because I had the schedule layout. Hold on, let me get the schedule here. So the schedule,
because unless
the schedule for
unless the Big 12 champion is Colorado and you end up ranking Army over them,
it starts on
Army's
December
20th.
It starts on December 20th and 21st is the first round.
Okay, here's
the second
where we run
round
into a problem.
New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And then we have January 9th and 10th, and then the championship is January 20th.
So here's where we run into a big problem. Army's going to be at a major disadvantage if they are not in the top 4. They will not get a bye week.
They're not going to be in the top 4.
I don't think they're going to be. They're not going to get a bye week.
They're not going to be in the top 4 because the committee will never get
the only way they make it to the top 4 is if Colorado wins the Big 12.
They're not
going to. Only way.
They're not going to make it to the top 4. They won't. They'll put.
I think they'll probably want to put. Colorado
they won't put. They'll put Boise State. They'll put somebody else there.
Yeah.
They're not going to put them there. Listen, the ACC is going to get it. The ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC are going to get the top 4 slots. That's reality. Unless somebody goofs
the only way.
I
mean, I could see Boise State getting it if the Big 12 champion is Colorado.
Now,
if BYU wins the Big 12, then yes. But if Colorado wins the Big 12, BYU probably gets knocked completely out, and then Colorado's probably going to be your 5th conference champion, would be my guess.
And keep in mind where Colorado – well, no, Colorado, they're going to make them – the Big 12 champion, in my opinion, is going to get it. Now, if it's Colorado, if it's BYU, then they'll leave BYU alone. But if it's Colorado – and right now, they're both same record, 6-1 in the conference, and BYU's 9-1, Colorado's 8-2. So, if Colorado wins if they stay where they are, and Arizona State doesn't catch up to them, because Arizona State's right there, if they don't catch up to them, and Iowa State doesn't catch up to them, then Colorado and BYU will play for the Big 12 championship. If Colorado wins the Big 12 championship, I agree with you that Boise State in the Mountain West, if Boise State was able, because they're 9-1, 6-0, and right now they're going to play the Colorado State Rams in this. If Boise State beats Colorado State, if they win the Mountain West championship, and they are at that time 12-1, then and Colorado wins the Big 12, that's the only world where I could see Boise State getting in at number 4. That's the only world where I could see that happening. But then Colorado is going to be given, and keep in mind, if they keep a slot open for Notre Dame and keep the seat warm for them like they try to do every year,
they won't if they lose to Army.
Colorado might get screwed.
Maybe, but they'll be a very low seed.
If Notre Dame has 2 losses and no conference, get Nicolette. Go somewhere else. Go play.
But you know they're going to put them in.
But they have
and they're probably going to lose in the first
game. They will have no right, because you will have a 2-loss Notre Dame and you will have a 2-loss. Like, if you look at this right now, brass tacks, and you got a 2-loss Tennessee, a 2-loss Georgia, a 2-loss Alabama. You got all those teams in there with 2 losses. Those teams are outside.
They should all be in over Notre Dame.
Right. So when you look at that and you say that, you go Notre Dame, you're going to
even a 2-loss Ohio State, if they were to lose to Indiana this week, would be in over Notre Dame.
So you're saying Notre Dame, I'm going to push you.
They would have 2 top 5 losses.
Push you beyond Ohio, but SMU's better than you. Boise State's better than you. If Army beats you, they're better than you. So now you fall all the way down here. Think about if Alabama lost to Mercer. Okay? People would be up in arms. But Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, and what are people saying? That was 2 weeks in. They were just getting warm and they were getting comfortable. Coach Freeman, he had a booger in his nose. He couldn't get it out. He got it out in week 3. He's fine. That's reality. Notre Dame will have an excuse for every loss, and they will have somebody rubbing their shoulders in every defeat. Where Alabama, they're going to have people helping them. But see, there's certain schools that are going to be helped. Ohio State, Michigan, not this
Michigan's
year,
out. Michigan's
but
out.
I'm saying in general, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Alabama, Georgia, people will rub their shoulders. Okay, they will rub their shoulders. They will caress them and hold them and put them in baby pose and make sure that they feel safe and nurtured, and they'll swaddle them in a blanket. But Tennessee can't afford. LSU can't afford. Ole Miss can't afford. There's schools that cannot afford to lose. Alabama's going to be protected, but there's certain schools that are not.
If Alabama loses another game, they're out.
Let me tell you this right now.
To me,
if the ACC doesn't have 2 schools in this thing, then the ACC has a giant bone to pick, because the ACC is considered power, right? But the ACC is in a place right now where
if last year proves anything, it's not.
They've been outrageously disrespected in how they've been treated. They were treated poorly last year. They're treated poorly this year. I told people Clemson wasn't going to stay down, and they're not going to stay down. They haven't stayed down. SMU, Clemson, Miami. Keep in mind, in the top 4 right now, who's in the top 4 in the ACC? Number 4, Syracuse Orange, baby.
Yeah.
Syracuse Orange.
We were talking about that on Saturday.
Keep it fresh, baby. So they
got votes for the top 25.
And they got
18 votes. They got 21 votes for the top 25.
They're ranked 29 in the AP, 29 in the coaches poll. Syracuse right now, okay? I had them and Isaac had them going.
I think they beat Notre Dame.
We had them at least going 8-4.
I think they could beat Notre Dame.
They got 2 shots to go 8-4. They got UConn and they got Miami. Both of those games are at home. Both of them are on Saturday. This Saturday, the 23rd,
they'll beat UConn,
and then Saturday, the 30th.
At least. I would love to see them beat Miami.
Right. But if
they beat Miami, Miami's out.
Right.
Miami will be out if they lose.
This is the thing that
the only way the ACC gets 2 teams is if Miami wins their last 2 games and SMU wins the conference championship. 2 one-loss teams, I think you put them in. But if Miami loses at all, obviously Clemson would be in. But if Miami loses at all,
there's 2 ways to get teams in the ACC. There's 2 ways. If Miami goes 11-1 and they lose to SMU, you can argue them both in. If Miami, there's 3 ways to get in. And this is in my opinion because SMU is undefeated right now. Unfortunately, SMU and they only lost to BYU 18-15. But unfortunately for SMU, they got to do everything. They can't lose. They got to win
the conference championship.
They got to win out. But if Clemson wins, if they play SMU and they win, then you can try and get 2 in. If Miami goes and SMU beats them, then you can get 2 in. Like you can get Clemson in Miami, you can get Clemson in SMU, you can get SMU in Miami. There's ways to get all these teams in. So there's actually 3 ways to get them in.
Well, if everybody wins out, as it sits right now, it's going to be SMU and Clemson. Right.
The problem is
Miami won't play
if
for the
Clemson didn't lose another game. If Clemson and SMU and Miami were all going in with 1 loss, then there's a shot to really get 2 in. But the fact that this committee, in 2 weeks of judging and looking at film and whatever they do, this college football playoff committee has committed a travesty in collegiate athletics in the fact that they have not put 2 ACC teams in at all in these first 2 weeks. SMU and Miami should both be in at this point because Miami has played nobody and so has the majority of the Big Ten. So an undefeated Miami at the time before they lost to Georgia Tech deserves to be in there, and they were. But to put Miami at number 4 and to put SMU outside of the college football playoff when they're 2 spots ahead of Miami makes no logical sense because they're not doing that to the Big Ten and they're not doing that to other conferences. They're not doing that to the Big 12. They're not doing that to the SEC. So SMU,
the Big 12 doesn't have anybody in the top 12 right now.
If Miami is 4 then SMU is in the top 10. But the committee's going to do what they want to do. They're going to judge how they want to judge. SMU, unfortunately, you're treated like you're still in the American. You have to win out. And if you win out, you're going to get in. And if Clemson...
If they win out, they'll be a top 4 seed.
Well, they should be. They should be.
They will be.
But to go from 13 to 4 is absolutely ridiculous.
It doesn't matter. As long as they win the conference, they're going to be a top 4 seed.
It's just stupid, though. It's absolutely stupid. No, because if SMU wins and Boise State wins and Colorado wins,
they would put.
Then
they
they'll
would
be like,
put,
oh, Boise State.
Believe me, they will put SMU in the top 4.
Well, they should, but SMU
and Boise State would be the 12th.
SMU should be above Notre Dame right now. SMU should be above many teams right now, but they're not. I mean, I don't know what the hell this team has to do.
Well, let's put it this way: Army's going to beat Notre Dame, and they're going to solve that problem. I hope.
We shall see.
I really hope that happens.
We're gonna hit this with something really quick. We're gonna take a really quick, fast break. I already talked about Jacksonville and how bad they are. I don't need to get into it until Thursday. So we're gonna take a step aside for a fast break. We're gonna come back with our cards really quick because your boy's got to get over to a press conference right after this. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315
487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. Open for you Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. Find your way over to their hockey, basketball, football, baseball, soccer, and so much more, including Disney, Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, and Magic the Gathering while supplies last. It's always constantly changing and evolving at GG Cards and Breaks. If you've never collected cards before, there's so many things that you can do to go in there. I mean, if you love playing trading card games, if you love Disney, if you love Pokemon, you love to have a big imagination, you're a big kid, you want to go and find your favorite team, your favorite sport, your favorite player, GG Cards and Breaks is the place to go to connect you to the things that you love, and you can find them on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6, and on Sundays from 10 to 5. With that being said, Murph and I are going to show our cards off. We got just a couple minutes before I got to head out to Fran Brown's press conference. Murph, I'll defer to you.
All right. So Bucks County Card Show yesterday, spent a lot of money. Sorry, Mom. Picked up some really cool stuff, some stuff that I no longer have. I was able to flip it pretty quickly. Nice, really, really nice Ken Walker RPA number to 50. It's a really good looking one. I went there with an objective to pick up some Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. That's exactly what I did. Lamar Optic PSA 10 rated rookie. We got a 2017 Donruss The Rookies Patrick Mahomes. That is a 9. And then just a regular Donruss rated rookie Mahomes. That is also a 9.
Nice.
We picked up a Josh Allen Prism in a 9. We picked up Jamar Chase in a 10 Prism. Joe Burrow Select in a 10. Joe Burrow Optic in a 9. Also picked up a Luka Prism rookie, PSA 10. That's a much bigger card than I expected it to be quite honest with you. Couple of cards other cards that I picked up that are going to be getting graded. They're really nice Topps Finest Juan Soto. This is from the World Baseball Classic, so he's wearing his Dominican Republic uniform. So that's a really cool card. I picked this up from GG Cards and Breaks. This is a Radiating Rookies Wyatt Langford. That is also going to get graded. We got Walker Jenkins first Bowman auto. We got Aiden Miller first Bowman auto. And a card that you haven't seen yet that I think is pretty darn cool. I'm going to be sending it to get graded. And I think it's a good time to buy him because he's not playing. J.J. McCarthy rookie auto.
Yeah.
That is a really, really interesting card. There you go.
My JJ.
See, now the difference with mine is it's got the Vikings logos. You just don't have the uniform and everything. Your auto is better.
And the thing is, the
smiley face.
The auto is that he signs some of them with a smiley face and some he does not. And I was like, I have to have the smiley face. I just did.
And then I got two more real quick. We got I might have shown these yet. I don't remember if I showed them or not. But both I got graded by SGC and they're back. Big cards. Hopefully, this guy is a future Met. Juan Soto. This is a Topps 2018, 1983 Topps baseball parallel. It is an auto number to 99. One of the highest graded, even though it's an 8.5, so it's a really cool card.
Yeah.
And then this one. I love this card. I don't even know if I want to get rid of it. But it is Joe Burrow, Panini 1, RPA, a dual RPA, on card auto to 99. Absolutely gorgeous card, and it's an SGC 9510. Absolutely gorgeous.
I love it. I like the Joe Burrow. I know you showed me that one.
Yeah, that card is sick.
So.
Forgot. Really cool Gilded It collection, Mike Piazza. PSA 10. Pop 1.
Oh, nice.
Just a cool card. Number to 99.
Another Piazza.
Sitting right next to me.
For your collection.
Yeah.
So I have my guy and Notre Dame quarterback and believer of God, Mr. Riley Leonard's auto, raw, Bowman first. Just wanted to get that for Riley. I have the 1,000+ yard receiver, and this is number to 499. Tetaroa McMillan's autograph.
Ooh.
Bowman first. So that's an NFL guy right there, and hopefully Riley too. And I have Thomas Castellanos from Boston College, who was formerly
Out of wild card. Is that a 1-on-1?
This is
Nice.
I believe it is my first 1-of-1. Yeah, this is a 1-of-1.
Wild card's a cool set. I mean, they're not all that expensive, but still.
Yeah, so
you get a 1-on-1 out of there. It's pretty darn cool.
There's a Thomas Castellanos 1-of-1 UCF quarterback turned BC quarterback. And then this is one that Josh, the owner of GG Cards and Breaks, went the extra mile, and I wasn't able to be at trade night because I was in New York City. So he got this for me, and then I paid him when I saw him here. It is a PSA 9. It is a rookie tri relic here. It's a football, and then it's black jersey, teal jersey, rookie card, PSA 9 of Trevor.
Beautiful.
And then here are my gradeds. So I'm going to show you the one that was ridiculously graded here. This is a PSA 8 of Ellie De La Cruz. I sent one of my De La Cruz rookies, and it only got an 8, whatever.
Ouch.
And then I got this one, which I wanted to get graded for a while, and I'm happy that it was. I was hoping it would be a 10, but it's a 9. A mint PSA 9 of CJ Stroud, one of CJ Stroud's rookie cards. I sold the other one I had of this, but this is the one that I actually pulled from a pack. And then I got my Brock Purdy. I sold my Brock Purdy camo orange. That's his rookie card, PSA 10. I sold that one that was already graded when someone traded it to me, and then I sold it. And then I got one that I pulled myself, or that I traded for, and then I put it out there, and it got a PSA 10. So I sold a PSA 10, and I got a PSA 10.
Mosaic is so underrated, man.
Sold it and I got it. And my final card for me to show you today is LeBron James. His rookie card here, which got a PSA 9.
I was so upset when you told me it got a 9, man.
I got a PSA 9. LeBron James. Listen, this card sat in a box for 20 years. So for it to get
I guess the fact that I got a 9 is still pretty good, but I was so bummed when you told me it was
and I
a 9
still
out of 10.
I sold my Steph Curry was an 8. And I sold my Steph Curry for I think a nice bit of change there. My Pat Mahomes got a 10. I sold that for 180. And then
you did well on that.
And then I sold my Pat Mahomes raw one that I had at like $40. I think I ended up selling it for 30. So LeBron, I have a LeBron rookie card for those of you that are interested. It is a PSA 9, and I actually found, and I don't know if it's here in the studio, but I found, oh no, it is. Pretty confident it is. That I found a Chris Bosh one with Toronto.
Oh, nice.
So I got a Boshi rookie, and I got a Ray Allen one, and a ton of Allen Iverson ones, and Kobe that might go to get graded. So, Murph, that's what it is. DT and Murphy, we talked a lot about 21 years of broadcasting, our history at Marywood, our connection. We reminisced about how it got started for me as well as for Murph. Talked about college football, a little bit of the NFL. Sports Card Show and Tell brought to you by GG Cards and Breaks. As always, Murph, thank you for everything. Thanks for the opportunity to return to courtside many a time, and everything that you've done to, bring that back into my life, and for being with me on Mondays, and for your kind words and your appreciation. Really means a lot to me, all the nice things that you've said and you've done. So it doesn't go unnoticed at all, and I really do appreciate it, and I thank you for it. I'm happy that we got to meet through something that we both love.
Of course, my friend. It was always fun when you came down, and always a pleasure to hop on the mic here. And one more thing real quick, Jets fans, we do not need a quarterback.
Got Jordan Travis.
Stop telling me we need a quarterback.
Got Jordan Travis.
We have Jordan Travis.
That's right.
Even if Rodgers goes, let Travis play. He would have been a first-round pick if he didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
I'm sick to death of hearing that the Jets need to trade up and go get Cam Ward and go get Shedeur Sanders. No! Just let Jordan Travis play. If he plays and he stinks, who cares? You move on to the next guy.
Yeah.
Then you draft a quarterback. Yeah. This year's class stinks anyway. Arch comes out next year. That's the guy you want. Or Quinn Ewers. Either one. Actually, Quinn Ewers will come out this year. And I don't really like him. I want Arch.
Yeah. Well,
that's next year's problem.
Jordan Travis, I was like, in a couple years, he'll get his shot. So.
And if you got a nice Jordan Travis Jets RPA, I'm actually bidding on one on eBay right now, trying to get it. I think it ends tonight. Jets one, huh?
I know.
No FSU gear.
This card.
No.
This card is a rare beaut, and thank you to Joe, who you got to talk to over the weekend. Joe is the reason why I have this card. So, thank you to Joe. It sits in my studio because it makes it look like he played for Syracuse because it's all orange. So
welcome back, Tommy Cutlets, by the way.
Yeah, Tommy DeVito. What'd I say? What did I say at the beginning of the year? I said prediction time, and I gave you a bunch of predictions. What was one of my predictions? Tommy DeVito will start at least one game in the 2024-25 season. Baby girl Lisa, he's here now. Cutlets for everybody.
I really hope he plays well so that the Giants miss out on a big quarterback again.
Listen,
that would be hysterical.
Don't worry about it because the Jaguars will have the number one pick the way they're going. So with that,
but they're not taking a QB. They're going to get a bunch of first-round picks for them.
I don't know what they're doing. So
that or trade us, Trevor. I'm good with that.
I don't know what they're going to do. But Murph, as always, I appreciate it. We'll talk more Jaguars on Thursday. Papa Joe and I will be your therapists. Take care. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
So with that being said, I want to thank you for watching and listening. YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. Of course, you can find us by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. Big time thanks to our incredible partners, of course, down in the great state of North Carolina. If you're in the Southern Pines area by Pinehurst Golf Courses, make sure that you go to visit the Brooklyn Pickle on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. That is Southern Pines, North Carolina for Brooklyn Pickle in the great state of North Carolina. First in flight, baby. 1788 Old Morganton Road. Big time thanks to our Central and Upstate New York partners, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Servo-Mation Mother's Cupboard, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, GG Cards and Breaks, Fire Pit Barbecue and Saloon, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Great Lakes Honda City, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, Pizza Man, Canine Campground, Dog Boarding, Brian's Landing, and we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins, Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse, and the Binghamton University Bearcats. You can see them all by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find the Lemoyne playlist, the BSC Syracuse playlist, and the Binghamton playlist as well. You can find Lemoyne every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, weekly on Wake Up Call. And, of course, you can find weekly Bearcat Time, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time with Binghamton. Bryan and Stratton every single month as well will be with us. And both of their teams are playing for national championships today. Here in 2024, the men's and women's soccer team are playing today in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for the right to be called national champions. So Syracuse, you better be paying attention. Men's and women's soccer have an opportunity to both be crowned national champions today. And I'm super excited about that. Can't wait to talk with the coaches and the team. God bless to you all. I hope you have a fantastic day. And as always, God bless, no stress, do your best. I appreciate you so very much. I thank you for everything. I hope you have a beautiful day.